This episode is brought to you by RAYCON. Ready for a sequel that's better than the original? RAYCON's fan favorite Everyday Earbuds Classic are back with an upgrade, now featuring active noise cancellation. RAYCONs offer top-tier audio quality you can bring with you wherever you go, with 8 hours of playtime and a 32-hour battery life. So whether you're playing your favorite tunes, making phone calls, or listening to this podcast, RAYCONs are the best way to do it. Go to buyraycon.com/command to get 20% off the Everyday Earbuds Classic. That's buyraycon.com/command.
Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Command Zone podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Weeks.
How's it? It's Josh Lee Kwai.
And we are just back from MagicCon Atlanta, which they dropped a ton of huge announcements, including the entire schedule for 2026. And it was received.
It was received. They announced there's going to be 7 sets next year. Usually, I mean, there's been 6, and even 6 has been a lot. I don't think we've ever seen 7. 4 of those sets are going to be Universes Beyond. This was accompanied by some separate announcements regarding a bunch of Secret Lairs.
Many of which, Universes Beyond.
Yeah, some would call some of them a little bit questionable, maybe. As a result, there's been a lot of discussion, debate,
conversation,
uproar, maybe.
Rabble about Universes Beyond's role in Magic, the future of Magic looks like, and there's been a lot of anxiety over sort of the changing landscape of the game that we know so well. Yeah,
and I think this is also coming on the heels of Spider-Man, which newsflash, breaking news, has not been received super well. So there's a lot to discuss here, a lot to unpack, and we wanted to sort of weigh in with our perspectives on it in this episode. So that's kind of what this episode is about.
Yeah, before we jump into that, we do want to make sure that you are up to date on the schedule that was announced, because there's a lot to know, and it's very exciting. It also sort of gives you some context for the conversation we're going to be having today. Yeah,
we're not going to go super deep. We'll link in the show notes to the video of the panel at MagicCon Atlanta. But they, you've probably seen the timeline that they do every year that kind of tells you when stuff's coming out. So 2026 kind of looks like this. We're going to start with Lorwyn Eclipsed on January 23rd.
Yeah, this is the set that you have all been wanting for 10 years. Yeah. Lorwyn has never been released while I have been a Magic player. So I'm very excited to go back to Lorwyn. A lot of things have been announced. Evoke is back. Yep. They're reprinting Shocklands. We've seen characters we know and love. This is sort of the quintessential Magic set to kick off the year.
Yeah, return to a beloved plane. Yes. I think a lot of people are excited about it. And then in March of next year, we don't have an exact day. This is the one on the entire list that we don't have a super ton of detail. Is just an unannounced Universes Beyond set.
They've announced a partnership with Nickelodeon. Right. That is the most that we know. We do know that the official announcement is going to come out on October 10th at New York Comic Con.
Which will be right after this episode comes out.
Right
so
after
find out
this
very
episode.
Soon. There's been a lot of speculation, and I think people have sussed out pretty well maybe what it is based on the evidence that I've read about.
Yeah, basically every news organization is reporting on one, but we don't know for sure, so we will find out in just a couple of days by the time you're seeing this.
Right, and then in April, we are returning to another beloved plane, which is a little bit newer of a plane.
Arcebios.
Yes, so Secrets of Strixhaven will come out in April. We don't have any other information about it, but I'm excited to return to Strixhaven.
Yeah, and they've alluded to some Strixhaven students in Lorwyn, so there's a little bit of crossover between those two.
Yeah, so we're going to have a crossover story a little bit through the Magic IP sets.
The next set is going to come out in June, so a couple months later. This is Marvel's Superheroes. So they've announced this is more of a general Marvel set. Our assumption is that it's going to be a little bit bigger than Spider-Man because they've already announced a ton of huge names. There's art from Captain America, Iron Man, Black Panther, Killmonger, Fantastic Four, Nick Fury, Squirrel Girl, Miss Marvel. Like, the whole gang is here on this one.
After Spider-Man, this one's a little maybe trepidatious as far as how it's going to go over.
Yes. It does feel like they're working with a lot more material, so it's going to be a very, they've alluded to the set just being absolutely huge.
Yeah, it's the world of Marvel. Not the cinematic universe, but the comic book world of, all of Marvel, maybe?
Right. So famously large and confusing with many different timelines and different versions of characters. So it's hard to say what this set will be exactly.
And again, that was in June. Then we move along to August, which will be the return to Middle-earth, and we are going to The Hobbit.
Yay!
This one's exciting for a number of reasons. I think Lord of the Rings was pretty beloved. Also, we might get a chance to reprint some Universes Beyond stuff, which they haven't really been able to do up till now.
Yeah, this is very... I don't know if they'll do it. We know nothing about the set, but the opportunity to reprint the One Ring, Delighted Halfling, even Orcish Bowmasters, there's not really orcs in The Hobbit, but maybe this is an opportunity for them to take some very expensive cards that are seeing a ton of play and maybe give us some reprints.
Yeah, I know there's been, because I don't know if we mentioned this earlier, but all the sets for next year, all these 7 that we're talking about, are going to be standard legal.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nuts. Generally, there's been, even when there's like 6 sets released, they're usually not all standard legal, but all this is standard legal. So there's been some thought of like, do you really want the One Ring in standard? They probably don't. And my thinking is they'll probably, I don't know any of this. This is all speculation, but they could do it in one of the extra slot in the pack. And then they could put Orcish Bowmasters and stuff in there maybe. Yeah.
Spider-Man had a couple of cards that came out that were not
they're not standard legal.
So they're in different products.
Yeah. So we've seen a couple of cards from that. I think people are generally excited.
Yep. Up next is the final in-universe set for the year. It's Reality Fracture. This one comes out in October. We have very little information about this one, and the logo doesn't spell it out much for you. The best information that we have is this is going to sort of wrap up, maybe not wrap up, I don't know if it's the actual conclusion, but see some of the results of Jace's plan to sort of fix the multiverse as it exists now. That's stuff that they've been setting up in Ether Drift and even Edge of Eternities.
Yeah, so no real known information, but that is a Magic IP set. And then finally, the last of the 7 sets for 2026 is going to come out in November, and it is Universes Beyond. It is Star Trek.
Man, hot on the heels of Reality Fracture, only a month later. And yeah, they've shown a lot of art from Star Trek. These are obviously directly taken from the show. We've already seen pictures of Captain Kirk. We've seen the Starship Enterprise, and we've seen Chancellor Gowron. And those are paintings, like fine art paintings of Star Trek. So
and we had Edge of Eternities this year, kind of setting up some of space mechanics. I would assume there's like spacecraft and things like that. Again, we don't know much about the set. I'm glad we did our sci-fi short film before we knew about Star Trek.
Absolutely. just under the wire there. Got it done. If you haven't watched that, go check it out.
Yep. Okay, so that's next year as far as the sets. And again, all standard legal. We'll talk about that later, but that's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of obviously feelings surrounding Universes Beyond, and the fact that there are 4 out of the 7 RUB. I'd say generally people weren't super happy to hear that.
Sure,
it's definitely worrying. And then sort of on the heels of this, there's also the announcements about a bunch of Secret Lairs. And I think Secret Lairs sort of impact Magic less, but when this all sort of was said at around the same time, it just kind of like got added together and added to the uproar. So let's talk about really quickly just some of the Universes Beyond Secret Lairs that were announced at the panel in Atlanta. And again, we'll link to that full video in the show notes.
Yeah, these are all coming out in 2025 in October. They announced 3 Furby Secret Lairs. They announced Dwight from The Office on his own Secret Lair. There's 2 Iron Maiden Secret Lairs. Yes, the band. You know exactly what it looks like if you know Iron Maiden.
Yep.
Jaws. There's 2 from The Last of Us. There's 2 from God of War. There's Uncharted, Horizons Into the Forbidden West, and Ghost of Tsushima. So there's a big partnership with PlayStation getting all of these video game ones out, and many of the ones that we just talked about are mechanically unique. The PlayStation ones in particular, everything else is skins.
I just wanted to rewind to the very first one in case you missed it. Yes, it's Furby.
Furby. That was not a stutter.
That's the anime robotic toy. Animatronic toy. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
From like the early 2000s, late 90s.
Yeah, the ones the NSA told you to put in your closet and not take out.
Yes. Yep. 3 Secret Lairs for that.
Some of them are cute and cuddly. Some of them are dark and terrifying. I love that they were leaning into some of the silliness behind Furby. Luckily, those are all reskins. We have no mechanically unique Furby cards.
Thank God.
But we're going to see Furby on Magic cards. The weirdest one is there's one with a Tameo and a Furby in the same card.
Oh.
Yeah, the Furby's like sitting on her lap.
Oh, they're allowing crossover
Apparently,
here.
it's
Generally,
very...
they don't. Yeah, like Jace doesn't fight Spider-Man. They don't appear on the same card. So that's interesting. I didn't know that.
It's very weird. Because
I'll be honest. I heard Furby card and I was like, I don't need to look at it. I don't care that much. Yeah. Okay, so what's the problem? What's the hullabaloo? I think we've gone over some of it. Over half of next year being UB, again, coming off the heels of Spider-Man, and also we have Last Airbender still to come this year. So there's between now and the end of next year, that means there's 6. Sorry, if you count Spider-Man as just having come out, 6 UB sets out of 9,
right?
Which looks even worse than 4 out of 7. Just too many sets total. People are kind of generally complaining about. 7 standard legal sets means that standards are going to change super, super fast.
Yeah, that's wild.
Really hard to keep up with. I can't imagine that. That seems nuts to me.
No, I playing standard and paper feels impossible with that much turnover. Like decks change so fast when a set comes out.
Yeah. And then I think just generally there's this feeling that the Universes Beyond sets and Magic in general is just moving away from the traditional high fantasy setting.
They printed Dwight from The Office on a Magic card.
Furby, Dwight from The Office, even Star Trek. You know, there was already some of the sentiment, but I feel like the sentiment's kind of gathering steam and getting a little bit louder, and the discourse has been, trending towards negative, I think it's fair to say. So is Universes Beyond ruining Magic? That's really the question we're here to sort of circle around and give our perspective on and talk about.
Yeah.
But before we get into our thoughts on that question, we're going to take a quick break and hear a message from our sponsors. CardKingdom.com/command. The best place to go to pick up your Magic cards, products, anything at all. I think Universes Beyond is complicated in that some really speak to you and some don't. But the ones that do, you do want to pick up those cards. So if you're still looking at Final Fantasy stuff like I am,
there's a lot.
Go to cardkingdom.com/command because they're going to have the product you're looking for, the singles in the versions. And the great thing about Card Kingdom is they are one-stop shop, one retailer. They get you everything in one package to your doorstep. So when you're building decks, I've been building a lot of decks recently.
Me too.
I'm kind of having this renaissance where I feel like I've gotten reinvigorated about Magic, not related to Universes Beyond. It's just, whatever.
Yeah, I built 3 Selesnya decks. I'm in a weird moment.
Yeah, you're in your Selesnya phase.
Yeah.
And Card Game is a place I choose to go every single time just because of that convenience factor of like add the 63 cards to your cart and then you hit checkout and they all arrive and you're just not stuck there waiting. Because when I build a deck, I'm very excited to play it. I just want to play that as soon as possible. So Card Kingdom makes that possible. Again, cardkingdom.com/command.
Yeah, and once you get those cards in your hand, you've got to protect them, keep them safe, keep them organized. Go to ultrapro.com/command and you're supporting the show while you do so. They've got high quality playmats and deck boxes and binders, wall scrolls, sleeves, everything that you need to just make sure your collection is safe and looks really cool. They've got the officially licensed Magic art, so you can get Magic art on sleeves or your binders or your playmats. Plus, they have really high quality stuff. The Apex sleeve is the best shuffle feel in the market right now. And you can get, I just bought a whole set of the Mana 8 sleeves.
They're so sharp.
Because I build monocolored so often that they're perfect for all of my monocolored decks. So Octavia is now in the blue Mana 8 sleeves. Very exciting. And use our affiliate link while you're shopping at ultrapro.com/command.
And of course, the final way to support all of our content is directly if you go to patreon.com/command zone. You can join our community and get all kinds of perks like watching extra turns and game nights before the general public. We also have it available ad-free. At certain tiers, we have things like an exclusive show that's only available to our patrons called Turn Talk. Also, our patrons get access to our Discord where you can talk with Rachel, myself, Jimmy. Most of our team's on there all the time. Ask questions, chat about new cards, things like that. Again, patreon.com/command zone if you want to join our community. We appreciate everybody that does that.
Plus, we shout out one lucky patron every single podcast episode, and this one is dedicated to Torrance Phaetonhauer.
Torrance.
You rock.
You definitely rock.
All right. Let's get back into it. Universes Beyond is not a new thing.
Not at all at this point.
We've been through the throes of Universes Beyond, but this is a sentiment that's really been growing, that Universes Beyond is taking over Magic, will be the death of Magic. There's a lot of hyperbole and maybe not hyperbole about the downsides of having Universes Beyond in in Magic. And I think a lot of that has come to a head because Spider-Man has been received so poorly. This is a set that we all assumed would be gangbusters. It's Spider-Man.
When they
It's
announced
Spider-Man.
Marvel, yeah, they announced their partnership with Marvel a couple of years ago, and it was like, wow,
Yeah,
Marvel.
This is it.
Yeah. And lo and behold, we arrive at the first Marvel set. And I mean, I think in the entire time, I didn't do any data research here, so this is just my feeling. But I think in the entire time we've been doing the Command Zone, which is, we're going on 11 years now, I think that Ether Drift is probably the set that sort of I felt had the least amount of excitement from the community about it. Mm-hmm. And then Spider-Man came along, and I felt like, wow, I don't know if it's above or below Ether Drift, but it's in the league of Ether Drift. Like, people not only sort of feel like they don't care, but are also kind of mad and purposefully like, I'm not going to consume Spider-Man stuff, and I'm not going to buy the Spider-Man project or product to sort of send a message.
Yeah.
Which I haven't seen to that degree before. Even for Ether Drift, I think people were just like, I don't care about it.
Yeah.
But this one feels like almost like I don't care about it, and I want to demonstrate that I don't care about it in certain ways.
To the point that like Fleem, who is a Through the Omen Paths like alternate character that we don't know anything about, has become this like cult hero and symbol of all things that are good about Magic IP and bad about Universes Beyond. Like, Fleem has arisen as this like, we would die for Fleem.
And it just shows, I think, that people are looking for a flag to rally around that sort of, symbolizes those things. Yeah, of course. So why is Spider-Man being received like it is? Why? I don't know if it's flopping.
We don't have numbers. We don't know how successful Spider-Man is, like, actually financially at this point.
And I'll say, like, we have a particular vantage point as content creators, which is that we judge a lot of things by sort of the performance of videos about the thing,
right?
Which are often obscured by the Universes Beyond of it all, because people that are excited about it are often new players and people that haven't engaged with Magic in the traditional ways yet online, and therefore like don't know about us. And so sometimes even Final Fantasy was like this to a degree, where like Final Fantasy numbers on videos initially were not a lot higher than our regular videos, but they kind of like behave differently than most videos, where most videos kind of early excitement, then drop off after a while. Final Fantasy was like middle of the line excitement early on, but then kind of held at that pace for longer, didn't just drop off the side of a cliff like newer sets tend to do. So that's that caveat about Spider-Man. I don't know that, Wizards obviously has sales numbers and things like that. And we'll talk about the fact like how much do sales numbers matter. But anyway, that is all a caveat to say, like, we don't know that it's flopping. All we can say is that from the Magic community that we generally interact with and have been doing for the last decade, it feels very cold.
Yeah. Yeah, we've gotten a lot of comments on videos that are just like, why support this? It's a terrible set. Like, I would say overwhelmingly, the public perception on social media is negative. And I think it's coming from a lot of different places. I think the Universes Beyond of it all, having a lot of it all at the same time. Final Fantasy was huge. Then Spider-Man came hot on the heels of Eternities, kind of squishing this in-universe set in between them. So there's a lot of sort of frustration about that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I remember a lot of people being kind of angry because Edge of Eternities didn't get a moment in the sun. And part of it was because they were literally previewing cards from Spider-Man before Edge of Eternities even came out because of when Comic-Con fell. And they felt like, I assume, that Wizards felt like, well, Comic-Con is the perfect place to start talking about Spider-Man cards, and we don't get to place Comic-Con where we want it. And the fact that it's sort of stepping on, I was going to say the heels, but kind of the face of Edge of Eternities is just like bad luck, but we got to do it. But I remember a lot of people being frustrated, like, wait, we're talking about cards from a set before I've even had a chance to get my hands on cards from the set that's coming out. It's not even out yet.
Yeah.
So that was already negative.
Yeah, that was a huge problem. I think some of the designs feel rushed. The rumor is, I don't know if we've actually had confirmation from Wizards on this, that Spider-Man was a small set comparable to like Assassin's Creed was a small set. And then with Assassin's Creed being received so badly, Wizards had to like explode this set really fast. So it feels like a lot of the design was rushed. A lot of the design is similar. Like there's 1,000 different spider people that all have some variety of like web slinging plus counters plus tokens. And there's like a dozen of commanders that are all that.
Yeah, and a lot of them are called Spider-Man or some version of Spider-Man, and so
there's literally Spider-Man Miles Morales and Miles Morales Amazing Spider-Man. Or no, what's his thing?
I don't even know.
He's a different kind of Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man's Peter Parker. You get the idea.
It is hard to keep track of, which is confusing and I think turning people off for sure. There's no story to the set. This doesn't tend to matter to me, but this is a complaint that people have had where it's just like, it's just Spider-Man, blah. It's Spider-Man vomit, right? Like, just like, this exists in the Spider-Man world, it's there, but there's no particular story of Spider-Man that this is telling.
Right. There's not one villain. There's not one arc. It's just sort of like, what can we reference in the Spider-Man universe and get it onto a Magic card? I would say that, like, it's sort of weird that this is a Spider-Man set, but the most compelling card design is coming from villains.
Yeah.
And I think it's largely because the villains are most clearly drawn in Spider-Man. Like, I think a lot of the problems that with, like, the card designs from this set are actually coming from the Spider-Man IP, just having, like, a bunch of different versions of Spider-Man that aren't super well drawn and all kind of do the same thing with slight variants. Makes it really difficult to design 30 different cards that are distinct and feel unique if you haven't like really drawn out those characters as clearly.
Yeah, it's almost as if a world that is focused on a single protagonist is not necessarily the most ripe for, making a Magic set around, where you need a world that has like, many fleshed out characters on both sides. Not
to mention this whole problem with Arena, where we've alluded to it already, but like Spider-Man exists in paper. It is standard legal, which means it has to exist on digital platforms. But because of mandates from Marvel, Spider-Man can't be on Arena. So they've created this entire new set that is the exact same cards with a different name and different art.
Yeah, so there are Through the Omen Paths versions of all the Spider-Man cards that are available on Arena in the place of the Spider-Man cardboard physical versions.
Yeah.
I don't know if we know the reason why. There's a lot of assumptions being made
that's true.
As far as why they weren't able to. My assumption is that there's either a very high cost component, because digital rights are different than paper rights. It's just like movies or something where like, hey, if you want to put this movie in a theater, it's different rights than playing it internationally than playing it on streaming than putting it on an airplane. Like all those rights are separate. And so maybe the original contracts weren't drawn up with digital in mind. It could have been in this expansion to it being a full set, putting on standard. That deal had to be redrawn and maybe some assumptions got made. Maybe the rights aren't even available. We know things like Marvel Snap exist. It's entirely possible that Marvel Snap has an exclusivity to digital card game, which might just make it like, listen, there's no amount of money. This is a deal we made. It's possible that they just can't even give those rights. It could just be that the price tag was too high. Who knows, right? There's a million reasons, but whatever the reason is, it does seem like a huge miss.
Yeah.
That like, you got to have differently named. They have to rename the mechanics.
Yep.
Like web slinging does not exist on Arena. I think it's called N-Web or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's N-Web.
Hey, but we got Fleam out of it.
Yeah, thank God. A goblin with no backstory.
We should say that Spice 8 Rack, our good friend, put out a great video about all of this. We will link that in the show notes. We highly encourage you to check it out.
Yeah, their Through the Omen Pass video is great.
Yeah. But this is all like, it's interesting, right? Because Spider-Man, reception cold. I don't know if we can categorize that exactly as a failure because we don't have sales numbers and things like that, but it seems like the community has definitely not like, open arms, like taking it in. And then, but you have this contrast to just 2 sets ago,
Final Fantasy,
which I have to say, one of the great triumphs of Magic ever. Obviously huge sales numbers, but also just a really good set. Limited environment was insanely good. Maybe top 5 of all time.
Compelling, popular precons, really interesting card design.
Just well done all around. And it's like, UB at its best.
Yeah.
And then UB, I don't want to say at its worst, but like not as good.
Yeah. I think Spider-Man, which, while not done terribly, is showing that like UB could be way worse than Final Fantasy.
Right.
Like I think it shows that like Final Fantasy standards were really, really high. I think Lord of the Rings standards were really, really high. We loved both of these. We embraced like how closely they fit into Magic. They felt right in the world. The characters feel at home, and then you look at Spider-Man and you're like, I'm not interested in the mechanics, and the guy looks weird in the suit.
And there's 20 different things that are sort of very similar.
And I can't even play the cards on Arena.
Yeah.
Like, it's you just show the problems. There's a lot of complications with Universes Beyond, and I think Spider-Man just ran headfirst into a lot of them.
Yeah, one of them is that it's not a high fantasy IP.
Yeah,
whereas
it's in New York.
Yeah, whereas Final Fantasy is, Lord of the Rings is, even Warhammer feels more high fantasy. There are people with sort of swords.
Sure.
You know,
yeah.
There are some analog to magic. I would say superheroes have some analog to magic as well, but like they're in a setting that's not real. It doesn't look like people don't wear jeans. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that was some of the biggest complaints about Duskmorn was it just being people, right? Just regular, like a cheerleader was in Magic, and now Spider-Man's like, no, that's that. They're in a high school in New York City.
And they're carrying a camera, and
And as much as they're trying to avoid saying New York City on the cards anywhere, that's the world. It's Spider-Man. We know that.
They should have said Manhattan.
Manhattan.
It's taking place in Manhattan. That was where Game Nights Live Atlanta took place, by the way.
So I want to talk about, like, what is the difference between Spider-Man and Final Fantasy? Like what did Spider-Man get wrong that Final Fantasy and Lord of the Rings got right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny, too. I want to say that, like, Final Fantasy was not expected or predicted to be the huge hit that it was. If you rewind, like, maybe a year ago, 18 months ago, I think most people would have predicted Spider-Man a bigger hit than Final Fantasy.
Absolutely.
And so the fact that it totally flipped into the opposite of that is kind of crazy. And I think we can posit theories. We don't know for sure.
Yeah.
I think the high fantasy thing is definitely a part of it. I think Final Fantasy is a world that's more conducive to magic in that there are a lot of characters. There's a lot of bad guys. You also got to think of like common enemies, right? Like your average just goblin. There's a lot more of that in Final Fantasy than there is in Spider-Man.
Right.
So you just have a lot more to flesh out there. I think that's a big part of it. It's a game.
Yeah.
It's a strategy game.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have talked about that's the success of 40K is the crossover between the two strategy games is like it's a very similar audience.
Yeah, so that audience also, I think you probably have a higher conversion rate to them actually trying to play Magic because it's like, oh, this tickles a part of my brain that is similar to the IP that it's with, and it's like, you know, I don't know for sure, but I think we probably have seen a lot more Final Fantasy players start to become actual Magic players, even more so than like Lord of the Rings or something, I would assume. So there's that going for it. I don't know. What other elements do you think sort of made Final Fantasy succeed versus Spider-Man?
It may just be timing in the year as well. Like Spider-Man hit at kind of a weird time where it was right off of Edge of Eternities. We were already feeling rushed through Edge of Eternities. And then the fact that it was sort of last minute changed and it's this pick 2 format. It's like a weirdly small set. There's just sort of weird problems with Spider-Man that the other sets didn't have. They felt very well marketed, very cared for. And even Spider-Man just doesn't have the marketing support that like Lord of the Rings had.
Yeah, it didn't stand out as much.
Yeah.
Part of that may be, though, also because the IP. So Final Fantasy doesn't have a lot of outlets for fans to, you know, to sort of support or like there's not Final Fantasy stuff outside of the games that's coming out in a big way all the time.
Right.
I think I heard this somewhere or maybe somebody said, but it was like the largest influx of Final Fantasy artwork that had ever come out at one time.
Sure, I believe
outside
that.
of one of the games, right?
Yeah.
So this is just not a thing that Final Fantasy fans get very often. So they might just be hungrier. Like Spider-Man. Listen, if you like Spider-Man,
you're well fed.
Yeah, you're well fed. There's a million ways to interact with Spider-Man,
and collect Spider-Man,
and new stuff coming out all the time. But that's not true of Final Fantasy. So it could be that there's just a higher fervor among that audience. I will say, too, like, it feels to me from the outside that Marvel has kind of waned a little and is not at the peak of its popularity. It's kind of coming down from those peaks, and that might be part of it as well, where, like, hey, if this came out 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe you'd be closer to, you know, that peak, and maybe people would be more excited.
Maybe. So what does this mean for the sets that were announced in 2026? Because we are going back to Marvel. We have a big set that's been promised. This is Marvel Superheroes. Is this going to be better than Spider-Man? Like, will they be able to recover where just Spider-Man just couldn't get ground?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be worried if you're Wizards, right?
You have to be.
Yeah, because you announced this big Marvel partnership. They've said that it will be multiple sets. We don't know how many that means. And and then the first one out the gate underperforms, or again, we don't know how it performed, but it's definitely not received, with like tons of positivity.
Yeah.
And you have to imagine that is going to domino into Marvel Superheroes. I mean, what's going to happen between now and when Marvel Superhero comes out for that to be a vastly different outcome? I don't know.
I mean, hypothetically, this is a bigger world. There's like maybe 1 or 2 cards for each of our like heroes. Maybe there's just less on top of each other. So there's like, oh, there's a Hawk Girl, and there's like, you go down a little bit deeper. So now you're like, Hawk Girl might be DC. I don't know. They're all the same.
Yeah. Hawk Girl. I don't even know who Hawk Girl is.
She's definitely in DC. She's 100% in DC. All right. You know what I mean?
Squirrel Girl, right?
Squirrel Girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a much bigger thing that they're working with.
It's a really good point, right?
It's possible
because,
it's too small.
If you like Fantastic Four, they'll be there. And if you like Black Panther, he'll be there. And if you like Iron Man, maybe they'll be there. Like you got a bigger spread, so it's maybe a little bit more of a chance that if you like Marvel, something's there for you. Whereas like this one's Spider-Man only, and if you don't like Spider-Man, other stuff's not there.
Well, do you like Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Or do you like Spider-Man?
You better really like them because there's gonna be 50 of those, but not anything else.
Nothing else.
Yeah. So maybe that's a little bit of hope.
Maybe. I'm really curious. It also might have something to do with the product offering. Spider-Man only came in, there was like gift bundles and that kind of thing, but it's only draftable. There's no pre-cons. So it's possible. We don't know what the product offering is for Marvel Superheroes. Perhaps the product offering was wrong. And it like the people who want to play Marvel sets aren't drafting, like even pick 2 drafting. So it's interesting. I don't know. But it's around the corner and it's going to hit like a bus. So I'm very curious about it. And honestly, like, I think The Hobbit will be great. I think it'll be received really well. I don't know how big of a set it is, but back to Lord of the Rings, I'm stoked about. And Star Trek, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we made our sci-fi video, so I think we've established that we are clearly like sci-fi nerds and fans here. Yeah. I'm not a total Trekkie guy. I do like Star Trek, but I'm not like a person that's like watched every episode of every show or anything like that. But I think I was a little bit surprised that there wasn't more excitement around the Star Trek announcement. It feels, again, a little trepidatious. And I think it's that blowback from the stuff we're talking about. There's also, a lot of people say like, well, I don't want to see an actor on my cards kind of thing. Like I want to see only, fake characters or
like
whatever.
That's William Shatner, which is going to be associated with William Shatner, the man.
I mean, it's tough. It's hard to unpack it all, but if I was Wizards, I'd be a little worried about, I wouldn't be worried about The Hobbit. I agree with you. I think on the heels of Lord of the Rings, and again, the world of Magic and D&D is based on Tolkien's world. Right. It has a lot of the same things. It's not an accident. They literally like, elves and dwarves and dragons and magic. Like the high fantasy was in many ways kind of invented by Tolkien or popularized. And so that feels like a natural fit. Whereas Star Trek is a tougher sell.
It's a tougher sell. Like, who knows? It could be close to Doctor Who because it's a TV set and may not have the gaming crossover that other sets have. Star Trek is big, but is it that big? Is it Doctor Who big? Is it like...
It's definitely bigger. Like it's
Final
bigger
Fantasy
as a property than Doctor Who. But how will that translate? Because Spider-Man is bigger as a property
than any of them.
Yeah.
So does it matter?
But that doesn't always translate directly into like how many people in Magic are excited about it or want to buy it. Yeah. Okay.
We've got a lot to talk about in this episode. We're going to dig deeper into just sort of the sentiments around Universes Beyond. There's been a lot of expressed opinions on why it's bad, what it could do to Magic long term, and we're going to try and discuss each of them and give each of them their due. But before we start, like, anything we say today...
Before we start complaining about you being like wholeheartedly...
Anything that you feel is okay. And if you like it, you should like it. We're not telling you not to like Universes Beyond or to like Universes Beyond. Your opinion matters.
Yeah, I think it's fine to like things, and it's fine also to dislike things. I think that's we've almost come full circle where like people are kind of getting yelled at for not liking stuff. I think it's also fine to dislike it. It's fine to voice your dislike. I actually think it's kind of important to do it so that you can let wizards and the world and whatever know that it's not your favorite thing. But I also do think it's healthy to sort of step back, look at everything from a reasonable standpoint and try to say, like, what's realistic?
Yeah.
and what are the forces that are sort of causing this stuff to happen so that I don't get mad at the wrong things too. I think that's a big part of it.
Where to focus your energy? Like what is like we're gonna go through all of the different problems that have been expressed about Universes Beyond, and some of them are real.
I think most of them are real.
And being able to like really focus on like this is the one I believe in. This is the biggest problem. I'm gonna focus my energy here rather than just be like I don't like it.
Yeah.
Because those are much more. It's a much more productive argument. It's much more helpful for wizards if you have a specific reason why you don't. So we're going to go through those and tell you what we think.
But before we do, let's take a quick break and hear a message from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
This message is sponsored by RAYCON.
Well, look who decided to show up to the party. I can't blame you. Who could miss a shindig thrown by me, cruel celebrant? But I'm not toasting death and destruction, not at the moment at least. No, this is a RAYCON anniversary party. And what better way to celebrate than with 20% off the Everyday Earbuds Classic? Now that's a deal fit for an aristocrat. I use my RAYCONs constantly, and I simply adore them. And the new colors are to kill for, though I prefer mine in sleek carbon black. They're packed with upgrades like multi-point connectivity and active screen cancellation. Plus, they're ergonomic and fit so well they simply can't fall out. Like they're clamped to your skull, but in a comfy way. And with 32 hours of battery life, your RAYCONs will never die on you. Unlike my party guests. Now put on your RAYCONs, it's time for a dance. A corpse dance, that is.
Go to buyraycon.com/command to get 20% off the Everyday Earbuds Classic. Again, that's buyraycon.com/command. Fall is here again, and Jordan, you know what that means.
I sure do. It's time to find another sacrifice for the harvest gods.
What? No, I just meant it's been a year, and you and I are both still enjoying Factor meals.
Oh yeah, that's true. And you know what's crazy is that even after all this time, I'm not bored of it.
Well, that's because they keep adding meals and shaking things up, like the new seafood and Mediterranean-inspired meals. Have you tried the cavatappi and shrimp scampi?
No, but I'll put it on my list. I've been liking the new Asian-inspired meals like the Thai peanut chicken salad. The varieties really just made it easy to keep up with my health goals, you know?
Yeah, definitely. It takes away any excuse I have to just go out and get fast food or order delivery every night. On that note, it is actually insane how much money I've been saving.
Oh yeah, me too. And that's money that I can spend appeasing the harvest gods.
Or, just buying magic cards like a normal human being.
Yeah, that too.
Eat smart at factormeals.com/command50off and use code command50off to get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's code command50off at factormeals.com for 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. Get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase.
Run! We're being chased by a charging monstrosaur!
Oh wow, how's it charging in the middle of the jungle?
It's got a rich power bank!
Cool! With the rich power bank, it can charge its phone, Apple Watch, and headphones, all from the same convenient device. It's got 5-in-1 charging with built-in cables.
Wow!
Man, that seems way easier than carrying a bunch of cords around with you, especially with those tiny arms.
Help, it's got haste!
Obviously, with 20 watts of power, it charges your phone fast, and there's enough capacity for 3 full charges. It even has MagSafe compatible wireless charging, so you can keep it magnetically attached to the back of your iPhone for extra juice all the time. With free shipping, a 99-day risk-free trial, and a lifetime warranty, it's the last power bank you'll ever need.
Oh, nice.
See? It lasted that guy's whole lifetime.
One thing to pack, 5 ways to power. You can find Ridge's power bank at Best Buy, or our listeners can get 10% off at Ridge.com by using code COMMAND at checkout. Just head to Ridge.com and use code COMMAND and you're all set. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support the Command Zone and tell them our show sent you.
And then I'm going to flash out Illusory Ambusher. I will bolt it to draw 3 cards. I will sneak attack out Triskaidekaphile. I'm going to go to my upkeep and I will win the game.
That was your first time playing the deck?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first time in paper. I've already goldfished it like 100 times on ARCHIDEKT. Their playtester is super user-friendly. Playing cards just takes 1 click, and you can mulligan, tutor, and move through your turns with the press of a key. There are simple menus with counters and copies, and you can take notes on cards as you play them.
ARCHIDEKT is the best place to browse, brew, and playtest commander decks. Just go to archidekt.com/commandzone to get started.
That's ARCHIDEKT.com/commandzone.
Welcome back, everybody. We're talking Universes Beyond, and we're going to dig into, I think, one of the first problems that people brought up about Universes Beyond and a pervasive thought. And that's just UB doesn't feel like Magic. Doesn't look like Magic.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, Magic from the very start was a high fantasy setting, and then even when it strayed a little into like, it would go into like Arabian Nights or like Greek mythology, this still is like at its heart, people with swords, holding shields, wearing armor, casting magical spells with fantastical creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that kind of lasted for a really long time, and I think cemented itself in most people's mind. And it's called Magic. Like the game is named after something that is very pervasive in high fantasy. And so now when you see SpongeBob on the battlefield or The Walking Dead or, Dwight from The Office pretty soon, I think people understandably are taken aback by that. And it leaves a little bit of a bad taste in your mouth. And you're going like, what did I eat here that's causing me to have that taste in my mouth? I don't like that. Yeah. Which I think is a totally fair reaction and understandable.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things where you're like, okay, I'm playing this game, I'm visualizing it in my head, I'm having this battle, and I can kind of like, I can summon Gandalf to fight at my side, and that's pretty cool. But then if somebody else has Spider-Man, you're like, hang on a second. Wait a minute, what are we doing here?
Yeah, and now I'm not necessarily a wizard casting spells, summoning goblins, fireballing or counterspelling your thing. What's going on here that like I'm controlling Spider-Man?
Yeah, why is he my guy?
I'm controlling Dwight from The Office?
Yeah. As Garrick, so like literally they reskinned Garrick a Planeswalker as Dwight from The Office, which is crazy. To think he's the Reaper King because he has a pumpkin on his head, and you're like, no, he's not. So it's this weird thing where you end up like seeing a product, something that you really love, like The Office, which is a very funny show that so many people have watched and enjoyed.
Yeah, the show's great.
But then you see it collide with Magic, and you're like, all right, what's he doing here?
Yeah, I had a friend, and there was a property announced for next year that they like, and I know they like, and they play Magic, and they were complaining about University of Bonn, and I was like, yeah, but Star Trek, right? Yeah. Thinking they were gonna be like, yeah, I'm excited about Star Trek, and they were like, meh, and I was, and they said something along the lines of, well, hey, listen, I like spaghetti, and I also like cheesecake, but I don't want cheesecake in my spaghetti, and I was like, that's fair.
Prof actually said that in the video. So
he did?
Yeah, he did.
Okay. He maybe tested out that material on me
he's
first.
running his jokes on you. But yeah, he that was it makes a lot of sense to me. Where it's like, look, I really like this thing. I really like this separate thing, and I don't necessarily know what they're doing together.
I don't necessarily want them together. Yeah. Just because I like two things doesn't mean I want them to like intermingle.
And it doesn't mean I want them all the time. I don't want cheesecake all the time. Sometimes I mix it in with spaghetti.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a fair retort here, which, by the way, I have the same feelings a lot of people have about this stuff, so I'm not like super pro UB or anything. But I do think, like, if I were a chef, I might say something along the lines of, like, yeah, but if you don't try cheesecake and spaghetti, then how do you find things like chocolate-covered ghost peppers with salted caramel on them, right? Like, that, there's really interesting stuff that's created that you don't even know is going to be good until you try it. So some experimentation, I think, can be healthy, and game design and game playing is sort of a creative outlet, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting because there's a lot of different problems with this where like Wizards has said for years that if you don't like something, then you shouldn't buy it and you can do something else and you don't have to.
Not everything's for everyone.
Not everything's for everyone is what they've said for years. But the problem with Magic and the thing that makes it different, it's not a problem with Magic, it's just different from Fortnite or Lego or the different comparisons that we make with that have skins like this, is that these are mechanically unique. You cannot play this effect unless you play
the Spider-Man
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's
they're not skins.
They're not skins.
All the time anyway, yeah.
Like in Fortnite, you can buy the most expensive gun and you can put whatever skin over it. Right. It's not like, here's the Sonic the Hedgehog gun, and if you don't like Sonic the Hedgehog gun, you're going to lose to Sonic the Hedgehog gun. Yeah. So like that is a major difference between the two ways that you can think about this. And I think I understand why that is frustrating. You also like...
I think also like your opponents, even if you're like, I'm not going to play any UB cards, your opponents can still play the cards, especially if you're playing standard or something. They're all standard legal now. So if you're in tournaments, you really can't opt out. You can't even choose, like you said, a different skin of a card. And you can't, even in Commander, you know, just because I'm like, I want mine whole battlefield to be high fantasy setting and feel like Magic, I don't have a lot of control if somebody's going to play the SpongeBob card, right, on their own battlefield. And I can be salty about it or whatever, but that doesn't do me a lot of good. I can't completely stay away from these cards unless I guess I have a really insular play group and I get them to all agree, hey, let's not play any of these cards.
Right. You make your own format that excludes it all specifically, that kind of thing.
Which I'm surprised nobody's done yet.
Yeah,
Somebody should start that format
Absolutely.
where there's just a list of like, yep, these are fine and these aren't, and you're the arbitrary committee of, what is high fantasy or not.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that'd be fine.
I think a positive side of this, and I do believe this is something that Mark Rosewater said in an article that came out a couple of years ago when he was talking about designing UB, is that UB pushes Magic's boundaries beyond what Magic, what felt like was possible for Magic 10 years ago, where it was very strictly this is what Chandra does, and this is where the world is, and this is what Magic looks like. And now we have mechs in Kamigawa, Neon Dynasty.
Right.
That never would have been something that was in Magic 10 years ago. So we're starting to spread out and expand our understanding of what our game could be. And I think that's a good thing. I think that creates more design space. I think that creates more intrigue, more diversity in terms of what we're actually playing. Does it push it too far is the question, and the answer is going to vary for each player.
Yeah, it's the chocolate covered ghost pepper thing, right? Like, so, we never would discover some of those things without sort of being forced outside of our boundaries. But the problem is, like, if 99 times out of 100 you get cheesecake mixed with spaghetti, it's like, oh boy, is that one time we find this cool thing worth all the heartache we had to go through to get there? And
heartburn.
Yeah, the heartburn. Yeah. I think the chocolate covered ghost pepper you got to be careful with too. Let me ask you a question, Rachel.
Yeah.
How do you feel when UB IP strays too far from the high fantasy setting? Like,
I think it's kind of fun. Honestly, personally, I think it's interesting, and a lot of people are talking about, well, it's like, I don't like when My Little Pony clashes with Transformers, clashes with Gandalf.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of funny. I think it's interesting where you can have these things collide and they're mechanically unique. Like, I think of Magic as a language and as a tool to like sort of explain the world around us and tell a tiny story. And I like that you can use it to tell any story. Like, I like that there's a hot dog cart. I think that's hilarious. I like that you can have a high fantasy deck with a hot dog cart in it. And I like that you can customize your world to sort of tell those stories. So for me, I'm not as frustrated by it, but I'm also the kind of person that if I look at a deck and I'm like, oh, the vibe's wrong, I will sacrifice mechanical power for flavor if that's the decision I'm making for a specific deck. And I'm lucky to do that because I play a casual format where I get to make the decisions.
right.
So I don't mind it, but I understand why people do.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm on record on our podcast many times over the years saying that, like, I don't care and never have cared that much particularly about the flavor of the game. Like, I don't... like, the name of a card, like Iron Man, is just words they put at the top of a game piece that does a certain thing in the game. And they could call that anything they want. And I get it. Like, it's fun that, like, oh, Iron Man in the movies does this. And the game mechanics of Magic mirror that in this way. And, that's cool and that's fine or whatever. But they can name that card whatever they want to. And they, in the past they could. And for me, most of what I care about is, like, what does it do? How does it interact with the other things? And what do they do? So I'm less inclined to care about sort of the trappings of the flavor than most people. But even I do have sort of like some revulsion to seeing certain things. And I can't always explain why. It's like, that bad taste in your mouth. You don't always know why it got there, but it's just like, I don't know. I don't love that.
Not for me.
And I'll be honest, like something about SpongeBob or something, which by the way, Jake Boss loves SpongeBob. I was so excited when it became part of Magic. And seeing Jake's face, because we were backstage at a MagicCon when it got announced, made me like, just swallow that bad taste in my mouth. It's fine. Jake's really happy about it, and I am slightly annoyed by it. Whatever. Like, this is totally fine. The universe is fine.
Yeah. But there are limits, right? Like, there's definitely a line where if they did it, you'd be like, yuck.
Yeah, we were having this discussion the other day with our crew, and we were like, what is, like, the worst Universes Beyond crossover that you can think of?
Yeah. And we came to sort of the same conclusion in two different flavors. For me, it's like sports cards.
There you go.
Like
NFL.
If they started putting like
LeBron.
LeBron James on a Magic card, I'd be like, what are we doing here? Like, what is
Patrick
this?
Mahomes
Why
didn't
is
get Taylor
he,
Swift?
Yeah, like why is this what we're doing? Because like they're real. That's like, I'm not summoning some person from down the street to come fight for me in my wizard battle. Like, that feels really strange to me.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting Iron Maiden. We had Posty already. I know. It's not like this hasn't happened. They've already mentioned K-pop is probably likely.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it was like 90 Day Fiancé.
Yuck. Yeah.
Or like the Kardashian show or something like that. Like, where there's a secret layer or a full set. Like, that was the line. Yeah, exactly. That face you're making right now. Yeah. And it's like, again, I don't care that much about it, but the thought of like somebody plays, a card from The Bachelor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just hard not to make that stinky face.
It's a stinky face.
It really is tough.
And I don't know why that's like, I'm fine with people playing like the Crick reskin of Post.
Yeah.
So I like that feels fine. But if there's like a mechanically unique Lady Gaga, it's just going to be weird. And I like Lady Gaga. So I don't know. Because I really don't want that. And I don't know why.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to articulate exactly why or exactly where the line is.
Yeah.
But it exists for all of us. And I think if we're being real, we have to say we are inching closer to the Bachelor and the 90 Day Fiancé card, the Kardashian cards. We're closer than we've ever been, and we're not moving away from it. We're moving towards it. Like, that's just realistically, that is true. Like, if you rewind 6 or 7 years ago, we are much farther away. And probably like, it's almost unimaginable 7 years ago to be like, hey, there's eventually going to be a Kim Kardashian card. Whereas today, it's not unimagiable. I don't know if it's probable.
Yeah, like,
but
we may not get there, but we're definitely walking toward it.
Yeah.
Like, we live in Los Angeles. If we start down the street, we're walking toward New York City.
Yeah.
We may not get to New York City anytime soon, but like, that's where we're going.
But it does feel like we're in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
we've been walking a while.
Yeah, it does. We're definitely not getting farther away. Yeah, and no matter how you care about Universes Beyond, there is a line, I think, for almost everybody. I think there's not very many people out there that are like, whatever, they could do anything. I'm totally cool with it.
Yeah.
And wherever that is. So I think that's an interesting thing to think about is like, and obviously there's people at Wizards, they're going to make these decisions and hopefully they have a line somewhere in their head. Unfortunately,
we don't know where it is.
Yeah, I think maybe there isn't for certain people there.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, well, will it make money? Then we should probably keep walking.
Yeah, there's certainly a bottom line.
Yeah, exactly. I guess that brings us to our next point that people bring up a lot, which is that not only does UB not feel like Magic the Gathering, but it is actively pushing out the stuff that does feel like Magic the Gathering.
Right. And I think that's a really tough pill to swallow, where you're like, it's fine if all of this is additional, if all of this is Secret Lairs, if all of these are like a couple precons that you don't have to reckon with. But there are 4 standard UB sets coming out next year. There's more standard UB sets than there are in-universe sets next year. And it's hard to look at that and not feel like it's pushing Magic out. And I want to be clear, Mark said in his blog talk pretty recently that in 2027, it is going back to 3-3. They're trying, that is like their ideal ratio is half. This is an irregularity, but we don't know that.
Yeah, we don't know that. The indications based on a few things they've said in different places is that there was some sort of decision made with Last Airbender and Lorwyn. Like, Lorwyn was originally supposed to come out this year, which would have been one more Magic IP set this year. But then I don't know if Last Airbender was supposed to come out in place, would be one more UB. But also, like, they want to have 6 and there's 7. So my guess is, and again, we'll get to this later, but the way that all this like partnership IP works is it's very complicated with scheduling and rights and approval and all this stuff. So I think they kind of got to a place where it's like, we got to bite the bullet and have 7 sets come out to kind of get back on the rails, I hope, and go back to 6. But I think Wizards, we know, has a long history of, they have an intention to do something, but then they say stuff like, we're not going to do this, and then they do it because it turns out,
Because Hasbro says, do it.
Yeah, because somebody's like, well, but that made money, or that, we can sell that, and so we should keep doing that, even though, other people have said, we have no intention of doing this. And I think they're being genuine in that moment. But I also think we can't necessarily trust it long term, because if they do 7 sets this year and it doesn't seem to negatively impact the bottom line, I don't know why they would be like, well, that's a rule. Yeah. You know, that we're only going to do 6. We just did 7 and it was great. I could see them being like, we should just do 7 then. Yeah. So I think, I mean, we used to have far fewer sets. So in some ways you can think of the UB sets as extra, as far as like, you know, it used to be like 3-4 sets came out a year. So now that there's 7, if 3 of those were UB and 4 were Magic IP, I think it could be like, oh, the UB sets are the additional gravy. It's muddled because of the standard thing. And also, yeah, there's so much stuff we keep talking about, but like 7 sets is just a lot. That's
a lot.
Yeah.
It also feels like, I think a lot of players feel that the extra work that goes into making a UB set, we've talked about all of the different, you have to work with additional partners, you're on totally different timelines. There's a lot of extra work that goes with UB sets, is eating into their ability to work on in-universe sets. And I think we've seen that with sets like Edge of Eternities getting squished. We've seen that with Ether Drift being underdrawn and ill-considered. And that's 2 of the 3 sets that came out this year.
Yeah,
like the only ones, Tarkir was a victory, but that was the one.
Yeah, and Edge of Eternities, like you can imagine, you got a UB set, a Magic IP set, and another UB set, and on either side, and like, because you have these partnerships, you really want to demonstrate, like, we will put marketing weight behind it. We will, and so the one place you can kind of pull back is your own stuff, because nobody's calling you to task there. It's like, as a business owner, I always say, like, the easiest resource I have is my own time, because it doesn't cost anybody anything. If I ask an employee to work a little extra, you know, which sometimes we do have to do, to be fair, it's a different cost than myself doing a little bit extra, right? Because that's me doing it. I'm not asking a thing. So that's the same thing when, like, oh, Edge of Eternities, let's pull it back a little bit. We can step on the marketing for it. Who are we pissing off? Ourselves. Yeah. And, you know, obviously the Magic players, but I think that's where those decisions kind of start to hurt us a lot more, and does create this feeling of we're pushing Magic out because we are prioritizing the partnerships and the UB in many ways above the other thing, not just in how many sets are being released, but in marketing pushes and things like that, and just like how focused we are on it, how forward we push it.
I will also say, like, this feeling that Universes Beyond has been overwhelming formats is true, especially in Commander, which is the biggest format. I was looking up Commanders that have been released in 2025. So this is so far, and then the stuff that's been spoiled in Avatar, it's only what's out today. There have been 424 new Commanders come out in 2025. That is an enormous amount of Legends.
Oh my God.
It's an enormous.
I remember when the whole year was like less than 80.
It's enormous.
Yeah.
323 of those are Universes Beyond.
Jeez. So almost 3 times as much, more than like 2.5 times as much.
We've gotten 131 in-universe Commanders this year. So that is significantly smaller than what players are used to in terms of selection from their own worlds. In terms of, like, when I'm building a deck and I get excited about a legend, you have to sort of hold your nose about an IP that you don't know, or you have a much smaller selection in terms of, like, what mechanics you can build around.
Yeah. And I think it does also make sense, because you're basing, you know, these UB sets off of IPs that tend to have, they're going to lean more towards legendary characters. Like I was saying, there's only so many, like, little henchmen that are no-named in most of these worlds. Like, Spider-Man just doesn't have that very many. Whereas you can create as many goblin whatevers as you want, elf whatevers as you want, out of nothing when it's your own world. And you don't need 100 named characters. But that's not how movies and books and comic books and things work. The named characters carry the story so much more. And so it would make sense that, like, they are just naturally sort of priced in when they do these sets to having so many more legendary creatures. And we see that with Spider-Man. Like, the percentage of cards in that set that are legendary creatures is very, very high.
And with Final Fantasy and with Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, exactly.
We've seen more legendary creatures in Universes Beyond overwhelmingly. And, like, that is definitely the case where the Universes Beyond sets make more legendary creatures. But the fact that, like, we look at every legend as a potential thing to build, and if every single one of those that came out this year, if 75% of the ones that came out this year are IPs that you don't care about, it's really difficult to find something that you get excited about.
Yeah, it's tough to say that it's not pushing out the Magic stuff.
Of course.
Yeah.
Look at it. It's squishing it.
Yeah.
There is a small counterpoint to this that I want to talk about. None of this has come to fruition yet, but there is evidence that suggests that Wizards of the Coast is supporting their IP more than ever. In addition to having all these other IPs floating around, they've announced a Magic TV show. They've announced a Magic movie. They're coming out with a book next year. They've announced that there's a book coming out with Strixhaven. They haven't done that since War of the Spark. Like there is effort here. None of those have come to fruition necessarily, but like they are supporting their own IPs as well. There's more merch at MagicCons. There's more shirts. There's more,
So maybe there's reason
loot.
to hope that the incentive structures will change enough for them to be able to do things or want to do things like say, hey, we can't step on the coattails or of Edge of Eternities like this because it's going to cost us in other ways.
Right.
I'm a big believer just in incentive structures being the main driver of like how things go. It's usually not like meetings held with specific decisions made of like, let's create more legendary creatures for Universes Beyond than we do for Magic IP. This is
incidental.
Yeah, this is a symptom of where the incentives are placed, which is why I said like, oh, well, of course, Universes Beyond kind of pushes you towards this naturally, So the fact that they have a movie and a TV show and other things coming out may start to give them incentives to push back towards like, oh, we really need to have our characters be more front and center so that we can sell these other things as well, which may help us. So yeah, it's weird, but I like that stuff. If they come to fruition, we've heard for years about a Magic movie and it's never happened.
Right.
I mean, the Netflix show was supposed to come out a couple of years ago and still hasn't happened. So I think until we actually are seeing them, it's hard to be too excited.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
I've been in Hollywood
signs.
too long. Stuff gets announced all the time.
They're walking towards New York City, and they're in like
they're
Utah,
in Vegas. And Vegas, as we know, might distract you.
Yeah, that's true. Oh man, the next thing that I want to talk about is the opinion that I resonate with the most, and that's that Universes Beyond is fracturing or segmenting our community into other communities, where the more that they put out sets that you don't know anything about, like I don't know anything about Final Fantasy. When that came out, I was like, oh, a bunch of people are going to be excited about it. It's not really me. So I get to watch all of my friends be excited about this thing where I'm like, oh, Go-Go's kind of neat mechanically.
Yeah.
Also me.
Isn't that Vivi busted?
Yeah. And they're like, well, actually, Vivi's a black mage, which is this kind of, so there's a reason. And you're like, sure.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, totally. What's a black mage? So there is this division where only if only part of a community gets really excited about a set, it's a lot less community driven than it feels like it's been before. And it gets this weird thing where like there are people who are excited about Spider-Man. There are.
Yeah, for sure. I think and in Atlanta, we met a bunch of people, and I would say, like, in that live setting, it was nice to be like, oh, people are generally a little more excited about Spider-Man than we're feeling online.
Right. But their excitement can get crushed by the overall negative opinion, like, online.
Yeah.
And that sucks a little bit, too, to be excited for a set and, like, to be looking forward to this thing and be told that you're wrong.
Yeah, so it's fracturing us in a couple of different ways, where it's like, not only is it like, you know, the people that really know the IP have this sort of inside knowledge about it that doesn't necessarily like filter out if you don't know about it. But then there's also this thing where it's like some people like it and a lot and some people don't like it a lot. And those people are naturally a little bit at odds. So this dual fracturing is a little bit worrying. I mean, we're used to, as a Magic community, being really united, basically, before Universes Beyond. I don't remember anybody being like, well, I just don't like the plane of cons and I'm just not going to buy it, talk about it. And if you like it, you know, we just kind of can't get along that well.
Yeah.
I just don't remember that happening for any plane, really. There's mild, like, you know, preferences, but yeah, we were all talking about the same thing, the same characters, the same places, and we generally all knew that knowledge. And if you joined Magic, you didn't at first, but you kind of got into it. And now there's pockets within, maybe. Right. And it might just be like a natural thing that's going to happen as a community grows, because for sure the community is a lot bigger than it was 10 years ago,
Absolutely.
like a lot. And so it might just be that at a certain size, it's unrealistic to think that we would all still be exactly the same. Like, there's going to be pockets, but...
Especially with Commander, where you're not really forced into one particular, like you're not forced to reckon with the community at large. You have small communities, right?
Your playgroup, your LGS, whatever.
Yeah, we were talking about, at the Commander format panel, we were talking to a tattoo who's a Japanese creator and works at Haruruya, and said that there's a huge amount of players that joined, started playing Commander when Final Fantasy came out. And they only want to play with Final Fantasy cards because like that's what got them in. So they're playing Commander around the Final Fantasy and are like, when are new cards coming out for Final Fantasy? Like, I'm not interested in the larger community. I'm here for this.
Yeah.
And that's a new challenge where some of those people will make the jump to play Magic at large, but some of them will stay in a pocket that is not interested in the greater Magic at large.
Yeah, but then on the other hand, if you don't ever create Final Fantasy, those people just don't play Magic at all.
Yeah.
So like, it's hard to say that it's a real big downside. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of this stuff is transitionary. It's this feeling of like it was this and it's turning into this. And naturally for the people that were in the was part, it feels bad and wrong. But it's not bad or wrong necessarily. It's just different. It's just change. And, it's like when your favorite band or musician like changes their style. Mm-hmm. Post Malone's doing this right now, right? Like he was definitely a different style now, and he's gone, or before, and now he's gone into country. Mm-hmm. And Pussy's not doing it wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge country music guy, but that doesn't mean that Post is not allowed to fall in love with country music and start making country music. But definitely it's going to change his fandom quite a bit. And a lot of people who liked his stuff before don't like the new stuff as much. And, whereas a lot of people that are liking his new stuff would not have connected as much to what he did before. And again, this is a sort of it's an incentives thing. It's a trends thing. It's a forces thing, but it's not like anybody made a malicious decision to do this on purpose exactly.
Yeah, it's just sort of people get left out in the cold a little bit. And I think
that does suck, right?
That sucks. And I absolutely feel for people that are in that moment, because when you're watching, you're in an in-group. You're like, I turned to Magic because I didn't have a ton of friends, and this is my social group, and this is how a place where I feel welcome. And then they make a set around Final Fantasy, and you're like, oh, suddenly I'm excluded from my own in-group in this way. Like, they're all laughing about the jokes that are in cards. Oh, remember this in this game? And that's hilarious. And I love that they did that. And that's a great moment for this in-group, but it kind of sucks for people who are like, well, I've never played Final Fantasy. It would take me 70 hours to catch up to understand at the level that they understand. And now suddenly the thing that I turn to feel like smart and good and knowledgeable makes me feel ostracized. And that's really hard. That feels bad.
It reminds me a little bit, I'd say if you rewind to 4 years ago or so, we were grappling with the amount of product coming out.
Yeah.
And we were really I think it's fair to say complaining decently often. And the community was as well, about just there's so many cards now, and it's hard to sort of keep track of them. And now people play cards and I don't know what it does. I have to read it. Because for years we'd been used to just being we know all the cards that get played for the most part, and there are a number of cards that are playable that I can generally keep in my head. Every once in a while somebody plays something crazy and you're like, what the heck? And you take a picture of it. Remember when you used to stop and take a picture and be like, geez, that card exists?
Yep.
How did I not know about this? And also I'm going to put it in this deck. You don't
now
do that
I just assume it's from Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. You don't do that anymore because so many cards fit that bill that I'm always like, okay, what's that do? What is that? Every once in a while I'm like, oh yeah, I sort of remember that. But there's often, but it took me maybe this 4-year period to get used to that feeling, because I was so entrenched in the old feeling of hey, I just know all these. And I had to sort of get to the point slowly where it was palatable to me, it was okay to me. I wasn't failing somehow in my mind. I didn't get that bad taste in my mouth when I saw a card and didn't know what it does. And now a lot of cards on the table, I'm like, oh yeah, what's that do? Oh, okay. What's that from? Yeah. Oh, all right. Yeah, I sort of remember that. I know that set existed, and I'm sure we did a set review on it, but maybe it just didn't stick in my head because there's so many cards. And I guess I can sort of, what I'm hoping is that Universes Beyond will follow that pattern where I eventually kind of get used to it, because I want to enjoy it, and I want to be okay with the Final Fantasy people that love it, loving it, and that not making me feel bad, because it's, logically it shouldn't inherently, they can enjoy that thing and I'm still not excluded really, but it's hard to shake that feeling that before we connected so much and now we connect sometimes, but not all the time. That feels like it's diminished, it's lesser, it's worse.
Yeah.
And I think that feeling is fair to have.
Yeah.
But I hope, I hope it behaves like the too many cards thing behaved. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. It's, as Magic gets bigger, it just feels like more people are coming to this for more different reasons. And it's less of a unifying language and more of a there's lots of tiny pockets all over the world. It feels like sort of a Magic the Scattering situation rather than we're all in one room. We're all gathered here together, and more of well, there's people over here that play this way, and there's people over here that do this, and there's people over here that are just playing Final Fantasy, and like everybody does it a little bit differently.
Yeah, I've described it as if Magic used to be a game on the Xbox, and it's transitioning to becoming the Xbox.
Right. Yeah.
And
does Xbox release its own games? I actually don't know the answer. You can tell us in the comments.
They probably have third parties that do a lot of it, but probably do a few themselves. But yeah, and I don't think either one of those things is inherently worse or better than the other. They just are intrinsically different, though. And during the transition from one to the other, you know, some new people are going to come on, and some old people are going to fall out, and and most of the vast number of people are going to have to like learn to come to terms with it in some way.
Yeah. There's this weird thing where like I like this analogy and I understand this transition, but like a lot of the answer that people give you to be like, oh, if a set's not for you, then just skip it. Like you just skip Final Fantasy,
right? And
then you can come back when it is for you.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is there is this sort of weird gap where you come back and everybody's experienced this VV roller coaster ride, and you're like, what? Like you leave your community for a month and come back and you're like, I'm behind and I only understand this new set and everyone hates this new set. I don't know why. So like, I just don't know if like telling people that it's okay if they like skip a game is actually the solution. Cause like for Xbox, if you skip a game, it's fine. Like you play the next one and they're not connected. This one, they're connected. Like,
yeah, they're going to play those cards, and I don't think the analogy is perfect.
Yeah.
But also, is it realistic to say that the game should only create stuff that all the current people are going to love and
probably not
won't necessarily appeal to the new people? You know, or they always having to thread the perfect needle of like, you know, because how many things even exist that are like great for new people and everybody currently will love it? You know,
not much.
That bullseye is probably pretty hard to hit, and it's probably a lot easier to be like, okay, we can aim at this target sometimes, or we can aim at that target sometimes. And we need to create a world where both targets exist rather than some sort of overlap, you know, Venn diagram, little teeny dot in the middle.
Right, Well, the next thing that a lot of people bring up in terms of negatives for Universes Beyond is that UB is directly responsible for bad Magic design.
This is interesting.
And I will say that there's an article, I've referenced it already, we'll put the link in the show notes, that Mark Rosewater released that are talking about the design challenges when working with Universes Beyond. This came out around Warhammer, so it's early in the journey.
Okay.
And a couple of things he mentioned is other IPs don't necessarily line up with the color pie perfectly. I think a good example is Avatar. Yeah. Avatar is 4 nations. We've got 5 colors.
How's that work?
I don't know. It sounds tricky. So that is definitely a challenge that they have to overcome. Certain IPs don't mesh well with Magic necessities, specifically stuff like removal.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you know, if they did a K-pop Secret Lair, there's not going to be like, you die is like a card that's not really, it's not really canon in the world of, like he mentioned specifically, like if we were gonna make a My Little Pony set, it would be very difficult to make removal because that's not canon in the My Little Pony world. No one dies.
No, it's true. Yeah.
So it would have to be like, you sit in the corner for a little bit.
Go to sleep.
It's certainly challenging. And working with other IPs means you have to lock in cards earlier because you have longer approval processes. You have more people that have to approve it. So you have to lock designs much earlier in the process and have less time for adjustments. I don't know if that means less time for testing. I assume they just do all the testing beforehand, but it means there's a long runway from when cards are locked to when they come out.
Yeah. Just truncating any sort of process and making less time available to do something almost always makes the end product worse.
Yes.
We know that from doing videos and stuff where it's often like, well, you know, deadlines get pushed and all kinds of things happen and you're dealing with outside forces and scheduling lots of people. And, you know, we usually want X amount of time, but we can do it in Y amount of time. And sometimes it's like, nope, you got Z. And then it's like, okay, well, we will get a video done at the end, but we know that the cost was quality. Just because there wasn't as much time to recheck it or to think it, you don't have as much time to just have those aha moments. And so, yeah, that's definitely going to affect quality. And I can see for sure just you've brought in a whole bunch of other people into a process.
Yeah.
And the process was already like creative, which is to mean like high variance. Because it's like, hey, come up with a great idea for this. How long will it take you? I don't know. I could come up with a great idea when I wake up tomorrow, but I also could not have come up with a great idea 2 weeks from now because great ideas are just hard to quantify when they're going to happen. And now it's like, okay, but also not only does your great idea have to be great, you have to get everybody in our building to agree that it's great. And then that was hard enough before. Now there's this other whole company and whatever their approval process is, they also have to sign off that it's great. And
guess what? They don't care about magic. Like
they might not even know that much about it. Yeah. I would like
Yeah.
to think most of these companies have like a magic expert on their team somehow.
Right.
But yeah, so I think this dealing with the other partner, there's a lot of credence to it when people say, like, we don't know for sure. I don't think Mark went into things like what partners demand on power level is. But if you're doing the Greek god set, there's no company that like owns the Greek gods and like tells you like, hey, listen, if Poseidon is not very powerful, he's the god of the sea, he's got to be powerful. There's just no chance that conversation happens because there's nobody that represents the Greek gods. But if you're doing the Final Fantasy set, and again, I don't know that this conversation happens, but it could. Whereas in the Greek gods thing, it couldn't.
Right.
And so we just know we are directionally, it's the same thing. We're walking towards New York. I don't know where we are on this one. You know, maybe we're from Los Angeles only in Riverside, but I don't know. But there is credence to the fact that like, it stands to reason that at least some of the times with some of the partners, they will put pressure on you.
Make good cards.
To have a certain power level.
Like, that's our guy. Of course he's a good card.
Yeah, so let me get this straight. You are going to design cards around our world and our main hero protect. Aang is going to suck? No, that's not possible.
Yeah.
That I can see that easily being a stipulation. Like the Aang cards have to be good.
Yeah.
Because he's our main guy and it's important for our brand. You know, if you make the NBA set, LeBron James's card is going to have to be very powerful,
It has
right?
to be good. It's LeBron James.
Exactly. The NBA is going to be no. The Michael Jordan cards got to be really good.
Oh my God. Can you imagine working with individual players? I'm going to die.
By the way, if we're on the spectrum of like, you know, The Bachelor and 90 Day Fiance are like the worst and you didn't like sports or whatever, I think we're pretty close to sports.
Yeah.
Like I would be surprised if sports don't happen
Yeah.
at this point.
And we don't know the other ways that the other IPs their structures are going to affect Magic, right?
Yeah.
The Through the Omen Pass thing is terrible. That is a terrible design problem, and surely that came from Marvel. We don't know exactly why.
Had to be some kind of mistake, right?
It's got to be something that was like
they don't want to do this,
right? It's a disaster,
Yeah.
though, and that is not something that we would have foreseen 10 years or 5 years ago, even that if you asked us about what the problems were with Universes Beyond, we'd be like, well, you can't put it on Arena. We're like, what? That's an insane problem.
That's
You
crazy.
have to be able to put it on Arena. So there's all of these problems that we can't even get ahead of that are going to vary from IP to IP.
Yep.
Including like licensing from actors has already been a problem. Like individual actors their faces can't be on the Jurassic Park card. There's the one
Doctor
actor
Who,
from the back.
remember a lot of the old contracts probably didn't have like all the, you know, different rights because like back in early days, they didn't even know digital was ever going to exist, much less like all this stuff. So there was a bunch of like problems just dealing with, because this is such a weird corner case of a rights thing. It's not necessarily covered under all contracts that were ever written in the 80s, you know?
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, not to mention something we've already talked about where there's too many legendary creatures in IP sets or in UB sets, which is a problem for standard or like places that can play sets. It makes decks look completely different when everything's legendary.
Yep.
It makes reprints difficult.
Yeah, this is something where we were talking about The Hobbit, right? Where we were like, oh, this is an opportunity where they might be able to reprint the One Ring, Orcish Bowmasters, because it really feels tough to like get these cards back in the world. But we know Magic cards go up in price over time if they're not reprinted, especially sometimes there's unique effects that's just like that. There's only one or two cards in Magic that do anything like this. And if it was a Warhammer card, what are you supposed to do? Like, how do you get that back in the world? And they've said like, oh, we could do a reskin, kind of a Through the Omen Pass, but for cardboard type of thing. But they haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
And it probably isn't as easy as we would think. And then
like, what do you do with Tyranids? That's not that, like, that's a type that exists only in 40K. So you have to come up with a totally new name. And it works with Tyranid cards because technically it's the same on the back end.
So the Tyranids are the Magic equivalent of Tyranids.
Yeah, they're the Tyrannauts.
Tyrannauts.
Totally different.
And they've made statements saying they can do these things, but they have not done them yet.
Right.
And then also the problem with that is then they're now predicting what cards, if like, let's say they do, everyone's talked about a universes within set at some point, which would be like a Masters set where they reskin a bunch of these cards so that they can, for the purposes of reprinting them. And it's like, that would be them predicting what cards are needed to be reprinted, and because it's like if you're like, oh boy, we need to reprint cards, let's throw this on this sheet in this thing. You can't do it unless you've already done the reskin. Kind of, it's just hard. It's just a lot harder to do, I think, than it is to be like, okay, great hinge again. Here we go.
Yeah. Not to mention, it's confusing. Where it's just like, oh, this is the same card, but it has completely different words and completely different art, and its type is different. You're like, this is the same card. It looks different to me. It gets very, very complicated, especially when you get into reprints. So the question is like, are we actually worried about this? Like, how much does UB actually negatively impact card design?
Yeah, I think VV is like the big thing people are pointing to right now in Final Fantasy. And my retort to, because I don't feel that Universes Beyond has felt more powerful from a card design standpoint. Like the design has been worse in Universes Beyond than your average Magic IP set. There's been some misses. There's been a bunch of hits. I haven't done any data, but I don't feel like that ratio has been out of whack with like VV. Obviously a mistake, but we had Nadu not very long ago from a Magic IP. Like,
who's that?
Yeah, design mistakes happen, and I think they are going to happen when you're pushing the envelope in any way. And you always want to make cards powerful so that people will play them. And I think Magic has dealt with power creep better than almost any game that's ever existed. I personally, this one, I don't worry about too much. I haven't seen too much evidence that it's negatively affecting. I get all the arguments, and they all make sense, and they're all logical. But like in the real world, from my experience, I don't feel that Final Fantasy was like a crazy overpowered set or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, power was definitely like high. It was power, like it was neat.
Good.
It was good, but if we're just pointing at BB, there's a lot of sets that have individual problems. Like Lord of the Rings wasn't an overwhelmingly powerful set, but there is a couple of cards that we could point to.
But it's not. I think Modern Horizons has stood out as like,
that's a huge power level problem.
Yeah,
it's so. I would say more than just about any other room in Wizards of the Coast and in Hasbro, I trust R&D. I trust card designers. They're the best Magic designers in the world. They're the only ones who do it.
Yep.
And they deal with challenges, and they're really good at it. Cards are great. And they know these challenges. These are challenges that were communicated by Mark directly and have worked really hard to overcome them. So I have a lot of faith that they will do a good job. That it is a challenging thing that they do, but it has largely been very well received and very well balanced. So
yeah, R&D is the true custodians of the game, and the fact that I know Mark gets a lot of flack for sometimes saying things and then they don't turn out to be like they go back on them or whatever, and it's tough to communicate with the public, first of all, but also I love the fact that they are thinking about the right things and they're clear and transparent about the stuff, right? They are aware of the same problems that we're illuminating here, and so that allows them to have discussions about trying to keep those in check as much as possible.
Right. Yeah. And something that Aaron Forsyth said that I think about all the time is Wizards of the Coast is incentivized more than anyone else, including us, who are very incentivized, to keep Magic fun and healthy and good.
Right.
They are doing everything inside of their power to keep their game good, because that means they still have a job tomorrow. Like, it means they still get to make the game they love tomorrow. Nobody is more invested than Magic than the people who make Magic.
Yeah.
So they want it to be healthy and good.
Yeah. I love that statement, but it does dovetail into our next point here, which is like, that's true, but when we talk about incentives and, trends and forces, they're a company, they're a business. And so Make Magic Fun is not actually their main goal. Make Magic Fun is helping them with their main goal, and I believe is their best way to get to their main goal. But their main goal is make money.
Yes.
And that's the true part about it. And if they could figure out a way to make money more efficiently and easier that doesn't cost them any long-term money, but makes the game less fun, I think, they would probably do that, or at least from the very top, they would do it because that is the job sort of a business, and they're publicly traded. They're owned by another business that we'll talk about, but they are largely propping up that larger business.
There's a difference between what you want to do and what you're hoping to do and what you have to do as mandated by being a company and being owned by a larger business, especially a larger business that has been shown over and over again is failing.
Yeah.
There's a great financial examination that Saffron Olive did recently. If you haven't watched this video, check out the show notes. We'll
definitely
do the link.
It.
But he talks about how over the last 10, 15 years, Wizards of the Coast has represented more and more and more and more and more of the income from Hasbro. And in the last couple of quarters, it has been like 95%, and in some cases, over 100%.
Yeah, which means that Wizards is making more money than the entire company because the rest of the company is losing money.
Not
That's
good.
how they're above 100%.
Yeah.
I think I might get the number slightly wrong, but just so you're directionally aware, like I think something like 10 years ago, they represented around like 12% of the company revenue, and now they're up in the 90s, and like Rachel said, some quarters, they've been above 100% of the revenue for the company.
Right. They said in 2024, I believe the number was 82% of revenue from Hasbro was coming from Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah, and one of the things we keep hearing from Wizards, and from one of their main kind of retorts to all of the criticism is, but hey, these are selling.
People are buying them.
We've got more Magic players than ever. We're the biggest set of all time by a huge margin was Final Fantasy.
And the second one was also Universes Beyond.
Yep, and Lord of the Rings. And, we're looking at Last Airbender probably doing huge numbers. People are very excited about that set. There is a lot of look at the scoreboard type of talk from them about proof that hey, all the criticisms and all the complaining is wrong because on the other side of the ledger is all this money.
Which means people like it.
Yeah.
It's what they're saying in Wizards.
Yeah.
If we have money, people like it.
Yeah, which I think we're going to push back a little bit on some of that. I think that's a data point, and it's worth saying as a counterpoint, but it can't be the entirety of the argument against it because, the fact that you're making money is propped up by a few things. One is which Universes Beyond product just kind of costs more.
Yep.
And this is for reasons like, hey, if I go to Marvel and I say I want to put Spider-Man in our game, you make a deal with Marvel and you have to pay them a certain amount of money. I don't know how these deals are structured, whether it's a percentage of sales, whether it's a flat rate, whether it's a combination of both, whatever it is. When you go to do the Greek god set, you don't have to pay the Greek gods any money to do that set. You just do it. There's no other entity out there being like, hey, I got to get my cut. Marvel's, Square Enix, whoever, Nickelodeon, they're doing that, right? As is their right. They own the IP. I'm not saying that part of it's wrong, but it naturally drives up the cost of making the set. And that's one of the reasons that we see sets costing more and astronomical numbers. I mean, Final Fantasy is a bad example because the demand was so high that simultaneously pushed up the prices. But in general, boxes and packs and cards for Universes Beyond set is more expensive than Magic IP stuff.
They're also exceptionally volatile. I mean, you can look at the prices of a collector booster of Spider-Man and it was $1,000 in pre-order and then it plummeted to $600. These things are all over the place and it's hard to know what a product costs when it's coming with all of these asterisks.
Yeah, what it's worth. And a lot of bad feelings of I spent $1,000 on a thing that's $600 a week later.
Yeah, even the precons for Final Fantasy, if you picked up Final Fantasy VII when it was coming out, it was $120. If you pick it up now from Target, it's $50.
Yeah, there's a saying in sort of the gambling world, which is you can shear a sheep many times, but skin them only once. And I think this can be a little bit that, which is you might trick people. But then they get bit and they might never buy a Magic product again. So is the $1,000 you made off the Spider-Man thing worth the fact that that person doesn't keep buying for years and years to come? Whereas it might be a lot better if the prices was lower, they feel like they got good value out of it and they're continuing to buy your product in 2028 and 2029. Right. And we don't know, it's hard to get the data on the people that get burned and don't come back. So you could make a lot of money right now and the ledger could look really, really good and you could actually be costing yourself money in the long run. And that's one of the reasons I think it's not fair to just point to the amount of money being made as the only metric of success and say all the criticisms are not valid. And they're not saying this exactly, right? They're reasonable people, but it does feel sometimes, that they're going but biggest set of all time.
Scoreboard.
Yeah, exactly. Shut up.
Yeah. It's There's also an extra challenge with Universes Beyond where UB is picked up by people who don't necessarily play Magic, people who are Final Fantasy collectors, people who are Spider-Man collectors. Yeah, just like putting it on the shelf. They're never going to open it, and this is a product they'll hang on to, and it's a part of their collection, and they'll never buy another Magic product. So it's very hard to tell how much of those are actually players, how much are going to be playing Magic in 5 years. It's a big question where it's like, yeah, a lot of people are spending money on Magic today, but how many of those players are actually going to be spending money on Magic in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years?
Yeah. I think they do try and measure this stuff as we do as well. I believe that we could feel the reverberations of Lord of the Rings like about 9 months to a year after we started to really be like, oh, a lot of people came into the game. We can tell them by the numbers and the trajectory of stuff that like, you know, I don't know what a rate was, but like there was a bunch of new eyeballs to be had. And my assumption is Final Fantasy will be even more than that, where like we're probably like 4 to 6 months out from really feeling it as creators. So they probably have some data on that kind of stuff, and they probably are starting to learn like which types of properties have a higher return as far as players getting hooked and continuing to buy for years and years, and which ones don't. Like I would guess, and again, this is all speculation, but like Doctor Who, I didn't feel any reverberation, and I doubt they did either. But you know, whatever. And there's properties maybe more like Final Fantasy, which are, you know, they can formulate theories like, oh, if it's a game and it's a strategy game, it has a higher retention rate of those people becoming players and then buying sets, 2 years down the line and still playing. So hopefully they're trying to figure out that stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I think the bottom line of all of this is just like, yes, it's making money right now, but I've always worried, and I worried about this to go back to the too much product thing. I worried about this at that time and probably said it on the show. Because there's very few things I've never said on the show before. It's like 1,000 hours of talking. I worried about this during that era where it was like we went up to just like a lot more releases, a lot more cards just in general coming out every year. And I said that amount, like the faucet being turned on that high meant that people were probably getting overwhelmed and sort of, for lack of a better word, sort of aging out of the game faster than they otherwise would have. There was an old, Mark Rosewater podcast where I believe he said that like the average Magic player, the retention was they'd play for about 9 years, which is a long time for a game, really long time.
Oh, I'm about done.
Yeah, exactly. I was done years ago.
Yeah.
And I can't help but wonder that all of this, did it lower that rate or did it raise the rate? Because I think it's possible and in some ways logical that just like the amount of stuff will numb people faster, and maybe they're only 5 years now.
Yeah.
What's
maybe
the
we
retention?
shouldn't be measuring that retention in years. We should be measuring in product, right? If 9 years you put 27 sets out or whatever, but now in 9 years you put 150 sets out.
Right.
That's
only lasting 3 years.
That's
now.
a lot more Magic in between those 9 years.
Yeah, so now maybe they're only lasting 4 years.
Yeah.
Another way I've talked about the show I like to think about is, is the ratio of Magic players, is it a higher or lower ratio of people that are like getting tattoos of like the Planeswalker symbol or the blue mana symbol? Is that lower or higher than people that like, they don't just play Magic, they connect to Magic as part of their identity. It feels like that percentage would have been higher 7-8 years ago than it is now. Like you might have more overall players, but each one of those players is on average connected a little less deeply to the game, and that has a cost as well.
Yeah. Something that Mark said in this article, which was one of the upsides of Universes Beyond, is an immediate emotional connection to the product. Right. Where it's like I see Sokka on a Magic card and I'm like, I love that guy. Yes. And you're immediately connected to this card so much more than if I saw just like a legendary zombie in another set.
For the first time.
I don't know. I don't know that guy. So the emotional connection is so much more. But how much of that emotional connection, what percentage of that is my emotional connection to Sokka versus my emotional connection to Magic the Gathering? Because like mine is high, but like for the average player, because it's probably 70% Sokka, 30% Magic if we're lucky.
Yeah, that seems high to me.
Yeah, and like
whereas if less people connect to Chandra, whatever ones do, they're connecting to Magic.
It's 100% Magic. So that bond, well, it's higher, maybe the number's higher in terms of like emotional connection numbers, you get it.
Yeah. Total volume of numbers is higher.
Yeah, the percentage of it going to Magic, and maybe even the total number of going to Magic, is lower overall. So if you're less stuck to this game, how many sets do you stick around for?
Yeah, what's your retention?
Beyond, like, if you're only here for Final Fantasy, maybe you just stay in Final Fantasy land and never buy another Magic card.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a really good point. So you can't, all we're saying, I guess, is that you cannot just judge the sales numbers as like the final arbiter of whether something was successful or not.
Yeah.
In the short term, it's great, and I'm glad Magic is making money because they'll be able to put more resources in and hopefully,
make more Magic cards.
Make more Magic cards. But yeah, I think there has to be some credence given to the fact that, like, hey, we can't eat cotton candy for dinner every night. It's not healthy. It'll taste good tonight, it'll taste good tomorrow night, but it won't be good for our body long term. And I think there is some amount of that exists with the Universes Beyond product for sure.
We're talking about a lot of negatives that comes with Universes Beyond, but there are some positives. There's a lot of positives in my head. A lot of them we've sort of talked about before, which is it attracts new players.
Yep.
That's the big one that everybody talks about, is we have more new players than we ever have.
Undeniable.
That's absolutely true. MagicCon is getting bigger and bigger. There's more women. There's more POCs. There's more people playing Magic today.
By a lot.
Than when before Universes Beyond started.
Absolutely. I think that is, yeah.
And that in general makes Magic a more important brand. It makes it more recognizable. It makes more people want to even try it because more people have even heard of it. So that brand recognition is huge. It makes it easier for you to sell Magic on your friends. So many people I've talked to that are like, I've been trying to get this guy to play Magic for years, and then finally Fallout came out, and I was like, you, come here, this is for you.
Yep.
And it got them to try the game, right? It's the first hit is free kind of
yeah,
thing.
it is. And we know from experience, everybody listening to this knows, if you try Magic, it's a really good game.
It is.
So
it's the best game.
And the biggest hurdle to getting people to, learn they like it is just getting them to try it.
Yeah.
There's a high percentage of people, if they try it for just they give it enough time, they'll like it because it is just fun. It just is a fun game. Full stop. Yeah, I think probably like 10 years ago, 7-8 years ago, we probably thought like, we're near about the number of people in the world that are nerdy enough to like this. And then Universes Beyond came, and no. Our calculation was way off. I think most people could like this if we could just convince them to give it a shot. Right. And I know that's a downside to some people. Some people want it to be more niche, want it to be smaller, want it to feel a little more cozy. I get that. But I do remember days, the days where it was kind of hard to find other Magic players, and if you wanted to play, you had to cultivate like a little group. And now it's like, boy, a lot of people play, and it feels like it's not hard to find Magic players.
And if they don't play, they at least know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's a lot of cachet to that, right? Your parents or your siblings or whatever not being like, what is that?
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What? No.
They're like, oh yeah, I heard about that or this thing. It's like a totally different thing. Yeah, for sure.
The other thing is, this is something that players have wanted for a long time. Like, we have seen over the years, people have made their own versions of cards that are like, I've reskinned Captain Kirk.
Yep.
And I took Captain Sisay and I made a Captain Kirk and I'm playing him as Captain Kirk.
Yep.
We've done that forever,
Alters.
for all of Magic.
Yeah.
And now Wizards is like, we can give you that.
Yeah.
We can build out that world. We can help you create this space. We can reward you for that creativity and engagement. And that's awesome to me. That is them seeing a need and seeing like a desire to use Magic cards in this way and fulfilling it and going so over the top and having so much attention and love for these things. Like Lord of the Rings, I can't speak for Final Fantasy. I know this is true anecdotally. They've put so much effort into making these resonant and real and loved and making the art beautiful and like exciting to look at. And the fact that they've paid that off in such a huge way, to me, makes Universes Beyond like a really beautiful thing that's happened between Magic and its game base. Does it have some strings? Are there challenges to that? Yes. We've talked about a lot of the downsides to Universes Beyond, but I think that's a huge victory.
Yeah, and a lot of this conversation is a juice and squeeze kind of argument, right? Like, is juice worth squeeze? And you're saying like, yeah, the juice is really good.
The juice is sick.
If we have to squeeze pretty hard, if that's the downside, like it's worth it. Yeah, I will say I've been around creativity for most of my professional life, right? I worked in the movie business and everything, and one of the things I love the most about Wizards in general is you go, we get unique chances to go over there and like test products and, years before, and you're around the designers as they're looking at you as you're playing the thing. And like, you can tell. I've been around the vibes of a movie set where like nobody, or usually not movie, but TV shows sometimes, where like, people are trying to just get a paycheck and get through the day or whatever. And then you be around the filmmakers that are like, every T has to be crossed, every I has to be dotted, and it has to be a perfect circle at the top of that I. And like, this is exactly the vision, and they really care. And that's the feeling that you get from the Wizards people. And I know most people out there can't, they just have to take our word for it a little bit, which I know is hard to do. But that's one of the great things is like, I do really trust the designers, and they really do want to make these good. And even when it's kind of like SpongeBob or whatever, that's the thing I can remember. I can look at Jake and I can think of the designers and be like, it's not coming from a malicious place or a bad place, and they're trying to make it awesome.
Yeah, they're trying to make it awesome. I think the other thing that Mark mentioned that I think is true is there's UB has opened up a lot of innovation in card design. When you have a specific story you're trying to tell, it makes you reach a little bit deeper into your bag of designer tricks to be like, okay, that's fine, but it doesn't really say like Gandalf,
right?
Like how can we tell this story? Like there's this specific thing about Gandalf where he like goes and does a bunch of research and then he runs away forever, and it's like, what? How do we say that?
How do we incorporate that? Yeah, with the game mechanics that everybody sort of knows.
Yeah, and I'm that's
constantly
really
amazed by the ways they're able to do it. We constantly look at cards and we're like, oh, it's because blah blah blah, and this represents that's so cool.
Yeah, it's an inside joke that we all get to look at and laugh, and it's written in a language that's for us, and that's very cool.
Yeah. And I think we should couch all of this in the fact that when I say I've been around creative professions my entire life, the thing you have to know about that is like, you take swings and you strike out sometimes. Sometimes you get web slinging where it's like, I don't get it. But like, you have to swing really hard, because then when you do connect with the ball, you hit a home run. Right. And like, the home runs are kind of worth the strikeouts. And one of the things we talk about at the command zone, I think is really important for people in their life, is just go for it. Yeah. Just be bold. You're going to have so much more success in life and so much more happiness if you don't hold yourself back and worry about the failures. It's like I've said about sports before, one of the best things that you can have, they say, in like, competitive anything, but sports specifically, is like a short memory. You fail, and it doesn't make you fail again. You don't think, I just dropped the ball, I'm probably going to drop the next one. You forget it that you just dropped the ball, and you catch the next one. So I think like the what about VV, what about Spider-Man in general, what about is like, okay, but what about the good stuff? We can't have the good stuff without some of the misses, without some of the strikeouts. Right.
And we're all going to have different definitions for what's a strikeout and what's a miss, which is the challenging part of Universes Beyond. Like I said, like I really connect to Avatar, but I don't know if you've ever seen the show. So it's like that's a difficult thing. Obviously, I'm going to be more excited about the set than somebody who hasn't seen it.
I'm not a huge Avatar fan, but when I see it, I go, it fits, right?
It's Avatar.
They have airbending and fire. They have
that's
firebending.
Cool. Yeah, we'll take them.
Yeah, I cast a fireball, like one of the very first things I ever did in Magic.
Right, yeah.
That fits.
We got one more big question we're going to ask before starting to wrap things up here. And the question is, if you had a magic wand, if you had a big old giant magic eraser, would you eliminate Universes Beyond from Magic? Would you go backwards to the time where it was 4 sets and they were all in Universe and that was Magic?
Boy. We have to go back to there's 4 sets a year?
I don't know. If there were 7 sets and they're all in Universe, that doesn't sound good.
Yeah, do you think that, basically this question is, do you think that the downside is bigger than the upside or not?
Do you think Magic is better off without Universes Beyond?
No, I mean, in my heart of hearts, no. I don't think it is. I think there's a lot of nuance. Yeah. And I wish if I was what'd you say, ruler of the universe? Yeah, if you had a giant magic eraser. Or the ruler of the universe. Yeah, you could be a ruler of the universe. I promoted myself by a lot there. If you're ruler of the universe beyond, would you eliminate your universe? I wish that I would have some nuanced control. Yeah. But I would not just say there's no universes beyond. I would say, well, here's the problem. Well, I want to hear what you think first. But I would wish I could be more tactical, be a little more pinpoint, like no Doctor Who. Yeah. But the problem is I don't know that I would have said no Spider-Man 2 years ago or whatever. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Anyway, let me hear your thoughts on the same question. Would you get rid of UB if you could? No, I don't think so. The feeling of looking at Lord of the Rings cards for the first time and the feeling of looking at, like, watching Jake get excited about SpongeBob and, like,
we all speak the Magic language, and when there's something that like speaks your language and then is specifically for you, it feels like a tiny treat, like a little reward for playing this game.
Right.
And it does. It makes more people play. It makes more people excited to play. Honestly, I think it makes a lot of Magic cards make more sense when you're like, okay, like I don't understand Magic, but I know what Sauron is, and I know that he's a big, scary, bad thing, so I should be afraid of that big, scary, bad thing.
Right.
Like,
only if you know Lord of the Rings, though.
Only if you know Lord of the Rings. That's the challenging part, is like, yeah, there's ups and downs. We've talked about a lot of them, but the fact that there's more people playing Magic today than there were playing yesterday is a tough stat to ignore. I hope that is the truth in 5 years.
Yeah. And going back to my point about like, I wish I could choose the specifics of it. The funny thing about that is like, you would choose different universes beyonds to exist than I would choose.
Yeah.
And that is exactly the position. And Jimmy would choose slightly different ones than me. And that's the position that Wizards is in. I wish it didn't feel so much like I wish it felt like they were choosing a little more. And I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
But when you do Furby and Dwight from The Office and, you know, Doctor Who even, I think, falls in this category for me, it doesn't feel like we're choosing so much as just like, what else can we do? Yeah, let's do it all.
Yeah, come
all
on.
Of it,
we'll take a meeting with whoever.
Yeah, I wish it was a little more tactical.
Kardashians are here. Bring them in.
Oh, gosh.
So we're going to have a quick conversation about what we think Universes Beyond could be doing better to, if we could do the little nuances, if we were the masters of the Universe Beyond. We're going to get to that conversation in just a minute. But if you like this episode, if you like Magic cards, you can pick them up at cardkingdom.com/command. That supports conversations like this one, game nights, extra turns, obviously. Plus, they're just the best. If you're buying a Magic deck, it's honestly the easiest way to buy 100 cards.
Easy.
Like, you can paste a deck list into the advanced deck builder. It gives you a list of every single card, and you can pick foil or non-foil, this set or not that set. It's all on the same page. It takes so much less time than trying to shop from a million different vendors and price check all these different things. And it just means that you get things bought, they show up on your doorstep, and you get playing. It takes a lot of the headache out of actually shopping. So, we use Card Kingdom when we're buying cards, and we buy a lot of cards.
Yeah, we do.
Like 4 decks at a time, like more than that. It's so if they can trust us, if they can get the cards for us, they can get the cards for you, and you can support the show if you use our affiliate link at cardkingdom.com/command.
And of course, once you get those cards, they do have value. You want to keep them protected. Ultra Pro is the game accessories brand that we trust our own collections to here at the Command Zone. If you go to ultrapro.com/command, you can find all kinds of cool products like the Apex sleeves, which are, in my estimation, the best printed sleeves on the market.
I like them,
yeah. When you print on sleeves, a lot of times the process that most companies go through to do that creates a sleeve that's like sticky, doesn't shuffle very well, and maybe isn't necessarily as sturdy. Not Apex sleeves. They went through a lot of time to really design these so that they're super sturdy, they last forever, and the shuffle feel is like butter. Yeah, it's really, really good.
Don't shuffle butter.
Don't. Why does people say like butter? Butter's actually kind of sticky.
Yeah,
right?
that's gross.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like grease, I was going to say. What else is slick?
Also, don't do that.
Yeah. Okay, again, ultrapro.com/command, don't shuffle with butter. But their sleeves would probably protect you. Might want a double sleeve, though. But I want to do that, yeah.
All right. One more quick question. Quick. What can they do to make Universes Beyond better? What lessons have we learned looking at these sets in retrospect?
I mean, what do you think? I'll let you go first.
It's something that you alluded to. I think being choosier about the IPs that you bring in is a big part of it. I think that Lord of the Rings and Final Fantasy lent themselves really well to Magic because there's these big epic stories and there's like a ton of different characters that are very thoroughly drawn. And I think that's a big problem with Spider-Man is there's a lot of sort of outlines of characters that don't necessarily give you specific things to hang on to.
The world's not quite big enough.
Right. Where they just like... Not many people know the backstory behind every single Spider's man to actually get it.
Right.
So I think that's a big part of it. But the big thing for me is I wish the balance was a little bit different. It feels like we're in a wind tunnel of UB a little bit. Even if they went from 4 to 2 Universes Beyond sets, I think that would feel a lot more palatable for more Magic players and it would feel more like a treat. Uh-huh. So even that I think is a totally reasonable number. It's still a lot of sets, but like 2 a year makes it feel like you're not just wedging in-universe sets between giant UB sets and paddling.
I know we're discussing what would make UB sets better, but what you just said there made me think of something.
Hit me.
which is maybe a negative. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
We're trying to go into the positive a little bit here. I think they might have learned the opposite. If I'm them, I haven't talked to anybody over there about this, but like if I'm them, because we know that Final Fantasy was a surprise,
right? Unexpected.
Yeah, like they were, like we said, if you rewind 2 years ago when they announced the Marvel collaboration, everyone thought that was going to be a huge hit, and Final Fantasy was like kind of thrown in there off the side, and I think most people thought, until maybe 4 or 5 months ago, it would be medium, just, fine. Maybe like Warhammer if we're really like overshooting. Yeah. And then it out of nowhere became this like crazy thing.
Overnight sensation, yeah.
Just to an insane degree. I mean, the stat is that, Chris Cox said in the Hasbro like financial meeting or whatever, Lord of the Rings took 6 months to make $200 million. Final Fantasy took 1 day.
Insane.
To make $200 million. I don't know. I haven't delved into those numbers, but like, that's nuts. And I think if I'm them, I'm probably thinking like, oh, we're not necessarily great at predicting which of these are going to be big hits and which aren't. Like Lord of the Rings we thought was, Spider-Man we thought was, it wasn't. Final Fantasy we thought wasn't, but it was. Warhammer, they were pretty lukewarm on it. It was a huge hit. Like, I think they probably rightly so have gotten the message of like, when we're choosing the IPs, we can't really predict what's going to be the big hits and what aren't. And in that world, because this is very similar to the movie business, where like you're greenlighting a project off a script that's written and projecting multiple years into the future based on what they might shoot, who you might cast, who might direct it, what choices they might make, how good that movie's going to do. And like, you could be the best in the world at it and you're going to have bombs and you're going to have hits. And so what the movie business kind of found is, we have to make a certain amount of these to sort of make the variance even out where the big hits cover the losses of the bombs. And that's why movie studios generally, the conventional wisdom was like, you want to make somewhere around like 20 to 23 movies. And that's at about the point where like the hits make up for the bombs. And like, if your batting average is a little bit higher, you'll have a few more hits, and if your batting average is a little more lower, you'll have less, and you'll do worse. But it's like nobody's good enough to be able to predict it, that their batting average is 1,000% or whatever. And so I think we might be in a world where like they're actually incentivized to do more Universes Beyond, to have a chance to have more Final Fantasies happen, and to cover for when the Spider-Mans happen. Yeah. Because when you only do 2, your variance is a lot higher. Because what if both of those are the bombs? Then you look like idiots and it looks really bad and your shareholders hate it. Which sucks because I agree with you. Yeah. Right? Like if it were up to me and I were the Masters of the Universe Beyond. Yeah. That's a He-Man reference, which would probably be a Universe Beyond at some point. I would want to be tactical and choose, I would want to base it on things like, okay, is it a strategy game? Is it in a high fantasy setting or really close to high fantasy? Or a movie like Lord of the Rings and Final Fantasy makes sense looking back. Last Airbender makes sense, and maybe I would steer clear of the Star Treks and the Marvels. Maybe. Yeah. But I can see why that wouldn't make as much sense to them, saying like, yeah, but you're not good and we're not good and nobody's that good at predicting what's going to be a hit.
And who knows? I mean, we'll watch this back in a year and see how Star Trek did and went, well, how did we not see that coming? So
what if Star Trek's a huge hit?
It might be.
Doesn't feel like it's going to be.
Doesn't feel like it's going to be. But what if it is?
You never know. Yeah.
Do you think that the product, the actual product that they released with the set makes a big difference? Like they've tried a couple different things. Like 40K was just precons, and then Doctor Who was precons and collector boosters, and now we're obviously to full standard sets, and then sometimes precon and sometimes not. Because I wonder if like they go back to standard, just like standard is 3 sets that are in universe. One of them is Universes Beyond, and they do like sort of a block Universes Beyond where it's like, oh, we'll do all the Marvel ones together, and then I know block formats were not a good idea, but you know what I mean.
Well, they hate designing them as well. Yeah.
But then you're in like a standard where you're like, this is Marvel standard, where like there's superheroes, and that's kind of cool. And then they'd release precon sets. So instead of doing a full standard set, they just do like 4 precons for Avatar, and they'll do 4 precons for I don't know, something else. The Office.
Yeah. It feels like whatever data they've got is telling them don't do the just precon thing because they tried it a few times and they're not really doing it anymore.
Yeah.
And
that was my favorite format.
But I bet if you're them, and it makes sense to me, you're sitting there being like, we left a lot on the table by not having a booster box for Warhammer.
Sure.
You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But again, for Doctor Who, maybe we saved ourselves a little bit there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. My heart of hearts, I don't believe that it matters that much.
Yeah.
Like people are going to buy it if they like it, and they're not if they don't. And most of them buying it are Commander players or casually enough that like the specifics of like, none of people are buying it specifically to draft for that to matter a ton, I think, to sales.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like if Spider-Man was 4 precons, we either wouldn't care or we'd be way more excited about it. You know what I mean?
Sure, but would you have made less money overall? I think probably.
Sure. I don't know.
No collector boosters exist. You can't even, like, people don't even have the option to buy that.
I mean, you could do collector boosters as well, and it's just the cards from the free. Yeah, that's what they did in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And then what do you lose? You lose a lot of the bulk. Like you lose a lot of the pump effects and that kind of thing.
So then it just can't be standard legal, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
if they could do one that's standard legal, I'm not even saying that like no universe is beyond in standard, but if they like pull that back, understand that like making an entire set, there are some worlds that cannot support an entire set like this. You can't have all the removal and all the bounce and all the effects you need in this world, and just limit it to the thing that we can do for this set. We can make 4 sick Spider-Man precons, and we can do a collector booster of like premium stuff.
I mean, again, we don't know, but there's been some speculation out there that they kind of did want to do that.
Yeah.
That this was an Aftermath Assassin's Creed style set. Like they're doing a version of that. Like, hey, less, because that's all the design space there is or whatever. And I think we've felt from Wizards, again, haven't talked to anybody over there about this specifically, but like we've felt this like, you know, in the last 6 months or maybe a slightly longer, this desire to push standard more. And I think they're probably like looking around being like, okay, Commander's really healthy, but standard has kind of gone down. And, you know, we want to push that more as another way that people can play and another place where we can find a home for a lot of these people that are finding Universes Beyond. And then somebody probably went, well, okay, but the things that's bringing them to Magic, they can't even play in that format. You know, again, I'm making up a conversation that may or may not have happened, but it does like make logical sense to me. And then somebody said, well, then we got to make the Universes Beyond standard legal so that they can enter the stream that we want them to, right? And that's, you know.
Maybe that's the wrong stream. Like,
but they tried the other one.
They're yeah. But like, I wonder if like I'm not sure that this like new stream to get people into standard is even working, especially with 7 sets coming out next year. How are you supposed to play paper standard when it's like half the sets look different?
But you said that the number one thing, and I agree with it, in the pro column for Universes Beyond was a lot of new players.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's just like, well, who are you trying to get to play standard? Not new players?
Commander players.
Yeah.
I think you put standard at a different spot in the stream. Like you bring them in as commander, they play Spider-Man, you're like, welcome, cool, Magic's awesome, right? And then you learn about other stuff. Like you grow into the competitive side of Magic from the casual side, rather than being like, okay, jump into a tournament. You're a Spider-Man fan. Like that's crazy to me.
Well, yeah, but what are they had Commander existing alongside Standard for like a decade, and people didn't migrate in that direction. They migrated the other direction. So I think...
Did they try? I don't even know.
I mean, they've pushed F&M and Standard and stuff for a while. Like, it's not like Commander players after a little while playing Commander don't know that Standard exists. So I think they've found that like people don't go that direction.
I'm just not sure they've ever
like, what can they
tried to do that.
What do you mean by try?
I mean, like, putting in specific incentives to be like, hey, you're a Commander player, but you're pretty good. We'll teach you how to be better. Well, you can learn tighter. You can invest more in Magic. You can be a competitive player too.
Like, but what I'm saying is like, how are they saying that? What are they doing? What are they supposed to do different?
I mean, actually, like
run ads that say that?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what their marketing arm looks like, but I wonder if they're targeting the wrong people. Like going from a new player to entering Standard sounds crazy to me.
Well, going from a new player to entering Commander always sounded crazy to me, and we originally would tell people don't do that.
Yeah.
But
But that's what everybody does.
We stopped telling people that because we were like, it doesn't matter what makes sense or what's
Yeah.
logical. Like, hey, don't jump directly into the pool of 30,000 cards. Maybe start with limited.
With a smaller
where there's
pool.
300. And people were
Yeah.
like, no, but everyone's playing Commander.
I want to play with my friends.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, so we started being like, yeah, you're going to do that. So
Yeah.
we'll try and help you do that.
Right, yeah.
So I don't think they have an ability to really control in that way.
I don't know. It doesn't seem like they were able to get anybody to play Standard. So I
think a lot of it is Arena. I think a lot of a lot gets put on, and we're way off course here.
Yeah,
so
we are. Sorry.
that's okay.
That's why it's after.
Yeah, hopefully, editors, you don't have to cover this with any visuals. We'll just talk for a minute. I think there's a lot of complaining right now by the competitive people about UB and about Commander and about the way that the game of Magic has been sort of pushed really casual towards Commander, and about how Wizards, really designs for Commander so much now, and how that's affecting competitive formats and things like that. And I think that's all valid and it's all fine, and I feel a little responsible for it all, and I'm sorry, but at the same time, I think Arena is to blame a lot for this, right? Like, a lot of people do play Standard, they're playing on Arena, and so when people say, like, I go to my FNM and the Standard events don't fire and the drafts don't fire, and you say, well, that's because Commander, maybe a little, but I think a lot of it is Arena, because I used to go play the drafts and the limited at LGSs when I was still playing Commander, and you know why I don't do that anymore?
And play on my phone.
I still draft, and in fact, I draft more than I ever have. But I do it on my phone or my computer at home because it's so much more convenient, and I get mostly the same experience. And I have Commander as my socialization. And I'm lucky. I have a whole company full of people that play, and we do Commander night, once a month or whatever, and we get all our friends here, and we do, I don't have to scratch the itch of the socialization part of it. And so I think that Arena has probably the thing that's actually more to blame for that loss of, paper community at your FNM. That, that would be my retort anyway to that. So yeah, nothing to do with Universes Beyond exactly, but there you go. There's my TED Talk. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. I mean, the answer is we don't really know, I guess. I don't know if we have enough data on Universes Beyond to actually know what makes for a good UB set and what makes for a bad one. Like, we have a couple that were like, we don't like it, and I don't know why. It's like, we like that one. I don't know why. It's Lord of the Rings. Come on.
I mean, you're a very smart person.
Yeah,
I have a ton of respect for you. Jimmy's a very smart guy. I have a ton of respect for him. I hope you feel the same way about me. And we both would have to admit that we would have differing opinions on the specifics here.
Yeah.
And the fact that that's the case just shows you how hard it is.
Yeah.
So I think, having a little bit of grace and giving a little more leeway when a bad choice is made. But also, like, man, I think it's fine to be true to yourself and be like, listen, I see Furby, and then I throw up in my mouth a little.
I hate it. Yeah.
I just do. It's cool. I'm not trying to tell anybody they can't like Furby or whatever. And I'm the one that doesn't care that much about that stuff. So that's it. I don't know what else to say other than 90 Day Fiancé. It's probably going to happen, and my heart drops a little when I say that.
Yeah. Feel your feelings. Express what you think, and they do hear you. But at the end of the day, if you're not feeling good playing Magic, take a walk.
It is a game. It's supposed to be fun. If it's causing you anxiety, if it's making you be angry,
not worth it.
Yeah, take a step away, take a deep breath, find something that is fun, because this is supposed to be an escape from those tough, stressful things, right? Like, it's supposed to be like, hey, I don't want to think about my job or the fight I had with my girlfriend or my finances or whatever. I just want to lose myself in this game. And if the game is actually a thing that you don't want to think about, then hey, stop thinking about it.
Yeah. All right. This was a long one, but thanks for sticking with us. We're going to say thank you to our team here for being amazing making this episode. So thank you to Sebastian Salazar, Karina Cruz, Gaurav Galati, Jamie Block, Jordan Pridgeon, Jake Boss, Becky Bell, Rachel Kendra, Eric Lem, Manson Lung, Josh Murphy, Evan Limburger, Sam Waldo, and of course, Jimmy Wong.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Bye.